They hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. Yeah, they hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, yeah. I had to elevate. I'm way too fly, yeah, I'm feeling myself. Ain't no chance I'm coming down, no. Got a soul view to myself, yeah. Why would I give it up? Why do they wanna come take my place? I work too hard for it, don't need a replacement. This my vocation, now I got rollies, all in rotation. Hop on a jet just to take a vacation. Remember the moments was trapped in the basement. Now the hard work is all taking me places. Squatting all black like we trapped in the matrix. Bet on myself and go ball out in Vegas. Living a life like I'm rich and I'm famous. Don't see the grind that I know that it came with. I ain't make it this far for myself, yeah. I had to prove to everybody else, I had to set them straight, yeah. I had to ball, so I had to renovate, I know. They hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. Yeah, they hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, yeah. I had to elevate. Ooh, yeah, why they wanna bring me down? So much drip, yeah, I almost drowned in it. I can't come it down, yeah, I'm way too fired up. I can't slow down. Ooh, yeah. I see the flashing lights, make sure the fashion right, yeah. I'm in my bag tonight, yeah. Ooh, I might just pull up a foreign. Watch out, the engine is roaring. It's too loud, you can ignore it. Yeah, yeah. This that high life with a view. You get to heaven.
All right. Salute. Good morning, people. Good morning. We at it. I'm trying to put the energy in the room. Clap it up, man. I'm trying to get the energy up in the room, man. We got boxing to talk about. It's Tuesday News Day. Oh yeah, man. You guys know how we carry. This is my favorite day of the week for me. We get to talk about everything that's gone and happened. We get to talk about everything that's gonna happen. And we get to speculate, right? That's what we love to do. We love to speculate. I mean, the facts is always good. The facts is always fun. I mean, facts is there. You know what I mean? We want to say factual. But I think the real fun in the game is the speculation. Ooh, and we going to speculate today. So many things to speculate about. So many things going on in the space, and we don't know what's going to happen. So we're going to make it up as we go along, right? We're going to make it up. Nah. We're going to try to stay on point, man. We're going to make educated speculating, right? We're not going to make stuff up to the point to where it's just delusional. But look, it is what it is, man. Salute to everybody in the building, man. I hope everybody's been blessed, man. Hope you guys enjoyed your weekend. Memorial Day for you guys, you know what I mean? Shout out to the veterans in the game. I'm a veteran in the game, and respect and salute to all the people who passed on and put their life on the line or paid the ultimate price with their life, you know, to give us the country that we're in. She's not perfect, but she's ours, right? Right? She's not perfect, but she's ours. It's where we live, and we appreciate where we live. You know what I mean? The freedoms. I always say it, man. As bad as she is, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but right here. So happy Memorial Day to you guys. Celebration to you guys, right? Today we got a lot to build on. Salute to everybody in the building. Kalia World. Hello, I'm early. I'll be back. Okay, Kalia came a little early. I'm late, right? I'm late. One of those mornings, one of those days, everything is just, you ever have those days? You guys know what I'm talking about with. I don't care how much you plan, how early you wake up. It's just like destined for you to be running behind in time. I'm running behind in time, caught up, moving around, doing things, trying to squeeze things into spaces they shouldn't be squeezed in. Pause, right? Probably pause. I'm gonna put a pause in there just in case, right? but at the end of the day, we're here. We made it. 15 minutes late, but we're here. So Kalia, hope you're here. If you are in the building, salute to you, Queen. Hope everything is good with you and everything is moving the way it's supposed to be moving with you. Shout out to SOB TV in the building as well. SOB. Son of a Salute, Clay. Blessings, my brother. Blessings to you, family. Ray Davis in the building. Salute, Ray. Ray will be up here shortly. You know, we're going to do the build up, the spiel, build up to everything that we're going to talk about, and then me and Ray discuss it. You know what I mean? Obviously, later on in the show, we will open the panel up to have some of the tried, true scholars in the game come up here and build with us on a lot of the topics, you know, that we're going to be talking about. Shout out to Mr. Big Play Bray. Oh yeah, grassroots. Been here since the beginning, man. I appreciate you, Mr. Big Play Bray, the foundation to this. Those first couple of 100 subscribers that came to this channel and been here since then up to this present moment, man. I appreciate you guys like crazy, man. Gave me something to build on, man. And here we are today, and everything is moving well, and I'm loving it. And I appreciate it. Without you guys, man, I don't know how long I would have stayed out in the space, man. So always salute to the Mr. Big Play Braves of the game. Salute to you, King. Salute to Matthew Manhunt Walters. Not familiar with you, Matthew, but welcome to the channel, man. Hope you subscribe. Guys, remember, as you come in here, to hit the like button as well. Let's get the thumbs up, get this in the algorithm. Salute and welcome Matthew Walters to the building, man. We build on that boxing, man. Feel free to, you know, join in, right? Feel free to contribute to the space and talk your ish. I don't know where you stand. This boxing space can be toxic at times. You got the fans, and then of the fans of the sport, and you got the fans of the fighters. Look, we love all you guys, man. You're welcome here, man. Come build with the team, man. Glad to have you here, man. Hope to see you here tomorrow as well. Salute to Mo Taylor in the building, man. Clay, blessings, bro. Blessings to you, family. Thank you, man. I receive all those blessings, man. Thank you. They all count, man. Make a big difference, man. We need to give each other as many blessings as we can give each other. Salute to you, Mo Taylor in the building. Ray Davis, of course. Coach Eddie ATL in the building, man. Salute, Coach. Coach, I hope you hang out till later so we can open up this panel. I'm down to hear your perspective on a lot of these topics that we're going to be talking about today, man. We're going to be talking about some stuff today. You guys have been watching what's been going on in the space. You see what's going on with David Benavidez. You see what's going on with Keyshawn Taylor, with Keyshawn Davis. I said Taylor. Keyshawn Davis and Shakur Stevenson. You're watching Jaron Boots Ennis back in the crosshairs of the whole entire space. He's getting called a duck again. Can he not be a duck? Jaron has got good problems, man. He's got the best problems. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Jaron Boots Ennis has the best problems. He's got the problems you want, right? He's got the problems that you want. What's the problems you, as a man? I love having multiple women that want me and arguing over me. And it's a horrible problem because, you know, you don't want to get yelled at, but at the same time, I could have worse problems, right? Something about being wanted. That's a good thing for the most part, right? So we're going to talk about that as well. Salute to the Cardenas in the chat. Salute to you, the Cardenas. Matthew Manhunt Walter says, of brother been a day once. Oh, okay. All right, Matthew, my bad, bro. Man, you know what? Matthew, my bad, bro. You know what we need to do? You know what? I didn't know that, bro. I didn't know that, King. My bad, bro. Thank you, man. Thank you, man, for being day one. Grassroots, man. Salute to the scholar in the building. The scholar in the building. Bruce Gas, boxing, jazz, and more, man. That's another guy who I like to see in the chat. I'm not going to lie to you, bro. Salute. Pause, by the way, right? Pause. Scholarship, man. Glad that you find something in the content we create on here about boxing that brings you here to come and check us out, even if it's for a few minutes or whether you hang out with us the whole time. I'm glad you can find something in here for you. All right, so guys, let's build on some boxing, man. What are we going to talk about first? We got a couple of things that we're going to talk about here. I don't know. I didn't really organize it as well as I normally do. You know what I mean? Hold on a second here. I didn't organize it like I normally do. I'm trying to think where I want to go with it first. Well, let's talk about Keyshawn Davis and Shakur Stevenson. Let's get into the meat of it all, right? Pause again. I don't know. I might need to pause a whole lot today, bro, because the way I talk, I'm starting to realize that I have a lot of pause-worthy conversation. You know what I'm saying? I guess I got a lot of pause-worthy conversation that the way I talk, but you know, I try to get in front of it and get the pauses out there so nothing is is misunderstood. I try to get in front of it. You know what I mean? I try to get in front of the pause issues, you know what I mean? But I can't change the way I speak. It is what it is, right? But at least you guys know where my heart is at. I'm trying, right? But get into meaning of it. Keyshawn Davis, Shakur Stevenson, man. So it is what it is, right? At some point or another, we always want these fighters to make that decision. You know, it's easy to talk that talk when you're early in your career and you know, you're still a prospect. It's easy to let things slide and to pay homage and you know, there's something about that line when your idols become rivals. Right, guys? When your idols become rivals, at some point or another, that moment of truth comes up. That conversation comes up too many times. And after a while, you're either going to stay in that position and stay in that what's the word I'm looking for? In that position of submission, right? In that submissive space to where you always and you never challenge the master. But then you get to a point to where you have to make a decision when it comes to the price being your legacy, your career, who you are, who you're going to be looked at in the sport versus the respect of that one person. And look, questions might even start coming out to where you're wondering, why is this person trying to hold me in this position? At what point will this person either get out of my way or give me an opportunity? If the road to greatness is down your street, am I wrong for going down that street? Do I avoid legacy and greatness just to maintain a relationship built on my willingness to submit to your authority over me, right? Based on my willingness to submit to your authority. How much authority am I going to give you at the end of the day? I can respect you. I can have love for you. But at some point or another, if we're in the same business, if me and my brother are both doctors or lawyers, do I stay humble? Do I stay in my space and not excel, even if it means excelling over him in order to keep that relationship there? If the relationship of my brother is based off of his authority over me, him being better at everything than me, then what kind of relationship am I really working with, right? Where am I really going in a relationship like that? And when you talk about somebody who's not literally your brother, right? Who's not blood tied to you that way, it gets even deeper and more diabolical, right? I think we may be, I don't know that we are, seeing a little bit of change in the algorithm and the energy right now. I think the fighter in Keyshawn Davis may be surfacing in a way that the boxing space is ready to embrace, right? Of course, because we don't really like the brotherly thing too much. You know what I mean? Shout out to the Charlos when we're talking about twin brothers, bloodline brothers. We respect that, but we don't want that brotherly relationship that you have to interfere with our entertainment, with our ability to see stylistically great fights. And I think stylistically, a fight between Keyshawn Davis and Shakur Stevenson is a great fight. I think the experience and the relationship they have inside that ring with the sparring and watching each other sparring and helping each other get ready for camps and fights, watching them fight each other, knowing each other, that's a great fight. As a boxing fan, that's something I could really get into, right? And we don't really care or empathize with that energy of I'm not going to fight somebody because I'm close to them that much. Now, don't get it twisted. I've learned to accept it because at the end of the day, if you don't want to fight, I can't make you fight. That's for sure. And I don't want to see a fight that doesn't make any sense, a sparring match, right? I don't want to see no nonsense like that, right? So if you're going to keep it 100 with me that you can't put hands on this dude, then I'm not going to stress out you not fighting this dude. Because if you're going to fight this dude, I want to know that you're ready to put some hands on the brother, right? And I'm assuming he's going to be on the same time trying to put hands on you. So that's what I want to see. But ultimately, it looks like there needs to be a little animosity in the boxing space. Sometimes there needs to be a little animosity. And it's Keyshawn Davis well within his right and doing what he needs to do right now and speaking quite frankly, knowing that in his own right, he may be the best 135-pounder in the game right now. Oh, I'm bugging. Clay, relax. You're doing a lot right now, Clay. Let me sip on my tea. I might be saying too much, right? Maybe I'm saying too much. Is Keyshawn Davis wrong for believing that he is the best 135-pounder in the world? And if he does believe that, can he comfortably walk around saying that with his own brother in the division, Shakur Stevenson in the division, his own brother, fraternal brother of sorts in the division, claiming the same thing? And is the media space, the journalists in the space, going to allow him to continue saying that without also bringing to the table the ultimate test to that theory that he has, which is, will you and your brother ever get in the ring? Will you and your brother ever make it happen? You both are in the same division. You both can't be the best in the world. There's only one. Shout out to the Highlander, right? There can only be one. And at the end of the day, if I'm saying I'm the best and you're saying you're the best and he's saying he's the best, well, how are we going to get to the bottom of this? How are we going to figure this out? There's only one real solution. One of us have to leave this space and get out of each other's way, or we're going to have to fight each other. Right? That's the only solution. You either get out my way, I get out your way. We refuse to fight each other like the Charlos do. We don't only respect each other as brothers as far as we won't fight each other, but we also respect the boxing space, and we don't make this thing so conflicting with boxing. We don't compromise the sport in the name of keeping each other up in the air and celebrating each other as brothers. We don't do that. So I think we're getting closer and closer to that time for them. Keyshawn Davis gets confronted. He gets confronted with the idea of, in a perfect world, things would move a certain way, but this isn't a perfect world. And what's that perfect world? And the perfect world is, I am my brother's keeper. My enemy should be your enemy. Your enemies are my enemies. And we should not be crossing those lines. And Shakur, obviously operating in a different space, rekindling a friendship with Richardson Hitchens. You know, it's something about if I smack somebody for you, right? If we get into a situation where we outside and I get into a situation on your behalf and I put hands or I burn bridges off the strength of the respect I have for you, and then later on you're with that same person I burnt bridges over for you, and now you guys are buddy. It's something about that, right? It's something about that can tickle you the wrong way, really trigger you, and kind of give you a certain reality check that maybe you didn't have before, right? What's the reality check? The reality check is you're operating on a certain frequency level, and that person is not operating on that same frequency level as you. In other words, Keyshawn is ready to throw it all away over Shakur, but Shakur is like, hey, bro, I ain't tell you to do that with him. We go through things. And that's why it's important that we stay in our lanes when it comes to certain situations, right? We stay in our lanes. We don't get involved. We don't get involved in certain conversations. We don't get involved to a certain degree because you're just setting yourself up for a big disappointment. And maybe Keyshawn is going through that. Maybe Keyshawn is going through a certain disappointment and a certain understanding. And right now, the whole entire Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, Gervonta, that whole entire relationship is starting to get in the way of the fight game that he signed up for. It's starting to get in the way. And now Keyshawn has to make a decision on how he's going to deal with things. It's going to be interesting to watch how it develops, as it always is. What will Keyshawn do? Will he leave the division, go up to 140? But at the same time, if he leaves the division and goes up to 140, will Shakur Stevenson respect that and stay out of 140? Or if he goes up to 140, will he make sure he doesn't fight for any belts, that he only fights, nostalgic type fights, fights that don't have anything to do with that? Or will these guys have a conversation that makes sense and just comes to the point to where, bro, we're in the same weight class. We're going to follow each other wherever we go. We're going to be there. Either you're going to get there first or I'm going to get there first, but eventually you're going to be there. We're going to go through this again. Keyshawn and Shakur aren't going to avoid each other when it comes to this conversation, right? Keyshawn will go up to 140. He'll compete up there. He'll fight for belts. Argue that he'll win belts. He'll be a champion. He'll challenge. He'll go for unifications. He's got aspirations to go for undisputed. And if Shakur Stevenson eventually goes up to 140, if 135 isn't giving Shakur what he needs, he'll go to 140 as well. And I'm sure he'll pursue the same things. He'll pursue titles. He'll pursue unifications and undisputed accolades. He'll pursue the biggest fights. And they'll go through this over and over and over again. And what an interesting position that they've put each other in, to sit there and swear blood brother oath that they'll never fight each other. This is where boxing, this is the inconvenient truth of boxing. Mike Tyson once said, and we all know what Mike Tyson says, if you really got love for me, if I'm your brother, if I'm your friend, if I really want to do something for you in the boxing game, the best thing I could do for you is give you a fight. Right? There's nothing better for a fighter. The best thing I could do is fight you, right? You hear Adrian Broner talk about the content he has for Floyd Mayweather, right? Why? You don't want to fight me. If you got love for me like that and you the bag, man, why wouldn't you fight me, bro? Give me a fight so I can get where I need to be. What do you mean because we close, you're not going to fight me? That don't make no damn sense. I'll jog some memories in here. If we got some people in here who follow MMA, I know, we're not big MMA fans in here. I rock with MMA, especially back in the day, right? If you guys remember two light heavyweight UFC fighters by the name of Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz, right? And Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz were the best of friends, but they were both in the light heavyweight division. And it got to the point where Chuck Liddell, there's only one belt in the UFC, right? It's not like boxing where there's multiple belts where, okay, you don't got to fight me for my title. You can go fight for another title. In the UFC, there's one title, and Tito Ortiz was the champion. Tito Ortiz was the champion in the division, and Chuck Liddell beat everybody he needed to beat, and it was his time to fight for a belt. And Tito said, look, that's my brother, man. I can't fight my brother. Well, how convenient for you, Tito. How convenient for you to be holding the title, to be the champion, and all of a sudden the reason you won't fight me is because of the love we have for each other. Chuck Liddell quickly got to the bottom of that and says, I don't love you, bro. We could throw the whole friendship away. I didn't come in here for that, bro. We met each other fighting, man. We came in the game because of the fight game. This is where we met at. We met here on the rules of the fight game. So you knew what I was coming for, and I knew what you was coming for. What do you mean that you in a position right now that I need to get into, which is being the greatest, showing the world, showing myself that I'm the best by fighting the best, and now I can't fight you because we brothers? I'm throwing it out. We ain't brothers no more. Worst thing I ever did. I ain't your brother, bro. I'm not willing to pay that price. Is Keyshawn in that space right now? Does Keyshawn need the WBC title if he wants to become undisputed? Yes. But more importantly, does Keyshawn want to be does he want the world to understand that he's the best 135-pound fighter? I bet you he does. I bet you he does. But can he say that with Shakur Stevenson in the same division? Because Shakur Stevenson and Keyshawn Davis both be the best at 135. They could be one of the best at 135, but who's ultimately the best? And who will be the best at 140 when they're in the same division? And if they go up to 147, who will be the best there? How do we figure it out? In boxing, in combat sports, in the sports that I love, it's always been inside of the ring. It's always been inside of the ring. And they have to come to that understanding that they're fighters. The skin has to get thicker. We got to get over it. If you can't put hands on that man, then that's an edge that you're giving away. And we can't say you're the best in the world with that guy moving the way he does. Keyshawn is about to get into the ring right now with a common opponent, Edwin De Los Santos. On the back end of a dominating victory, if he stops Edwin De Los Santos, yeah, right? If Keyshawn stops Edwin De Los Santos and puts him away, it's going to get even more tense out here in these boxing streets. Right? Right? Let me look in the chat here and see what's going on. You guys know I get the run in my mouth, and I'm not paying attention to the chat. I'm not good like all the veterans in the game. I can't stare at the chat and talk at the same time. Oh, Drew Titan in the building. Salute to Drew Titan in the building. Yeah, Drew, good to see you in the building. Hope you're in good health. Hope you're in good spirits, brother. I got to meet Drew. Drew, a big dude, bro. A lot of y'all be talking crazy to Drew, bro. Yo, a lot of you guys be talking crazy to a lot of you don't know who these dudes is, man. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I met Drew and I was like, oh, hi, hey, Drew. Okay. Hi. Good to meet you, brother. Hey, man. Good to put a face to the name. You heard? That dude is a big dude, bro. Shout out to J.R. Spock in the building, man. J.R. Spock, salute, King. Hope everything is good, man. What's going on here? Thomas Hill, my guy. My guy. Salute to Thomas Hill in the building, man. All right. And, of course, my Aki. Assalamu alaikum. Flyer. My Aki in the building, man. Good to see you guys, man. Oh, Ish, my bad. Salute my guy, the undisputed champ of these YouTube streets, Clay, displaying all his belts. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, man. You know what I mean? I earned all these. because I paid for them. You heard? They mines. They mines. You know what I mean? If you take it, I could press charges. Legitimately, you stealing my ish, right? It is what it is. Salute to everybody in the building. Bub Boxing. What you got going on, Bub? Yeah, nay, they must fight like Tank has to fight everyone. No excuses or move out of the division. Yeah, Bubs. Bubs, I hate to agree with you. You know that, right? I hate to agree with you, brother. Nah. But no, you're right, man. This situation is always going to keep showing its ugly face. There's no getting around it. The idea that fighters won't fight each other because of relationships outside of the ring, very big time conflict of interest. And this is probably why the saying goes, I ain't got no friends in boxing. Gervonta Tank Davis says, I ain't got no friends in boxing, right? You got to respect that, because one day we may very well have to fight each other, and there'll be nothing that stops me for trying to ultimately put the worst ass whooping, belt to ass, that you've received in your whole career. I'm going to be the one that probably does it if I can do it, right? If I can do it, I'm probably going to be the one that will do it, because it's the fight game. You know what I mean? It's the fight game. And when you're watching things like that happen with what Keyshawn Davis and Shakur Stevenson is going through, it is very conflicting. You know what I mean? Now, don't get it twisted. You guys can quote me. I've said things before where I've accepted what Shakur Stevenson and Keyshawn Davis has said, because the reality is, if that's the way they want it to be, that's the way it's going to be between them. Am I a fan of that? No. Do I want them to do that? No. But can I understand when somebody says they're not going to fight somebody? Yes. If Gervonta Tank Davis were to come out right now and says, I'm not fighting Shakur Stevenson, I'm not fighting Keyshawn Davis because of whatever reasons, I ain't fighting these dudes, so stop asking me to fight these dudes, I'm not fighting them, that would be it for me. I'd be done with it at that point. I would not be happy with the decision, but I'd be done with it, because what can you do? You can only control what you can't control, right? Only yourself. We can't play that game. So it looks like Keyshawn is making a choice and being confronted with a decision, and it looks like there's a chance he may be leaning to the side of he might have to be on the DB3 island. And like he said, if you're not DB3, anybody can get it. And last I checked, Shakur Stevenson is not DB3. Or maybe he is, right? They need to add some clarity to that. Give us some perspective on that, if that is what the case is, right? If he is part of DB3, then maybe he was talking about Shakur as well. But last time I checked, DB3 stood for Davis Brothers 3, right? Or the Businessman 3, or is it Davis Brothers 3? I don't know, right? Keon, Kelvin, and Keyshawn, right? Last time I checked. I don't know. It is what it is. It is what it is. But we'll see how that how that manifests and what that turns into a little bit later. Let's go ahead and move on. As I'm introducing these topics, I'll be bringing on, Ray will come up here and we'll be building on it. So Jaron Boots Ennis in the crosshairs right now of the boxing space again. Jaron can't stay out the drama, right? This is what comes with the game, Jaron. Hey, Boots, salute to you, fam, but this is what comes with the fame. More money, more problems, right? It is what it is. You can't be the best in the world and not have everybody in the world trying to get a piece of that action. Something about being a great fighter, something about being a generational talent, and a lot of hate and envy that comes with it. Ask your counterparts or future counterparts in the Terrence Crawfords and the Gervonta Tank Davises and the Shakur Stevensons and the Devin Haneys, right? In the Tyson Furies, the Anthony Joshuas, the Alexander Usyks, the fighters that everybody want to fight, the Canelo Alvarezes. This is part of the game. You're there to be criticized. The scrutiny was always going to be there. You're never going to please everybody. And Jaron Boots Ennis is in a great position, but at the same time, a horrible position, right? He's in a great position because he's earned the accolades he's always wanted to earn. He's a unified lineal champion in the welterweight division, and he has other champions in the division, or another champion in particular, and Brian Norman, who's willing to fight him right now. He has an opportunity to be a 3-belt unified champion, and who knows, he may also be in the conversation of fighting the winner between Mario Barrios and Manny Pacquiao. That's another conversation for later, right? He has that opportunity, but at the same exact time, he's sought after. We want to see him at 154 pounds. This is an argument that's always been there for myself from the beginning, watching Jaron Boots Ennis. I would say ever since the Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford situation has always been at the forefront of the conversation when it comes to Jaron Boots Ennis, which is how long are you going to stay at 147? if those fights aren't there for you, if the opportunities aren't there for you at 147 for you to get these titles and to do the things that you want to get done, how long are you going to make these weight cuts that look like every fight that passes by, it looks like it's a more diabolical weight cut for him? Jaron's gone on the record and spoke to this already and told the world that he makes 147 easy. That's what he says. It is what it is, right? He makes 147 pounds easy. And who are we to tell Gervonta Boots Ennis what's hard or easy for him? He's living his life, right? But look, outside looking in, aesthetically speaking, it looks like it's a struggle. It is what it is. And I'm going to tell you what, you go out and you hire a nutritionist, I start to feel like it's probably leaning more towards the side of it's becoming difficult for you to cut that weight. Because a nutritionist ain't a chef. Let's not get it twisted, right? If you'd have just went and got you a chef, I'd have been like, he likes to eat good, know what I mean? He wants people to cook his meals. He earned it. He making that money. You know what I mean? I want to get me a chef. But if you hire a nutritionist, yeah, brother, in a sport of boxing, when you got to cut weight, we know why you hired the nutritionist. So a lot of opportunities for Gervonta Boots Ennis. At 154, the whole damn division, the whole top 10 in the division is waiting on him, right? And in 147-pound weight class division, you've got the likes of a Brian Norman Jr. who won a piece of that and who's holding a WBO title, something that attracts Gervonta Boots Ennis, something that makes his mouth water a little bit. He loves those belts. He likes jewelry. Gervonta Boots Ennis is a big fan of boxing jewelry, right? He likes it. He loves legacy. I know that's a thing in the past right now. The legacy fighter thing, you know what I mean, is a relic of the past a little bit right now. Most people don't understand the legacy fighter. They don't understand a fighter who would put money to the side under legacy, that would put legacy over everything. And I think that's a whole lot of what's going on with Gervonta Boots Ennis right now and the criticism he's receiving from the boxing space. Most people aren't used to it. Get used to this kind of fighter, because with the introduction of Turkey Alalshikh to the boxing space, the prize fighter and the legacy fighter can coexist in the same space, right? You can get paid a lot of money to chase legacy. It's not one or the other anymore. And Gervonta Boots Ennis is a legacy fighter, but he also has the likes of Teofimo Lopez, who's looking to get in the conversation as well. He's trying to do something great. He wants to separate himself from his peers. That's what Teofimo wants to do. I mean, obviously, he's triggering a lot of people with the antic-driven nonsense he's talking about, all the racial energy that he seems to be existing in. He stays in that space. He likes that controversy. He likes the attention he's getting. Being of the complexion that I am, and a lot of the people who are on this channel are, it's hard for us to play with that game, right? It triggers us and it hits us in the wrong way. But at the end of the day, why is he doing it? You can say that just because he's a racist and he just wants to see, you know, skin folk getting hung from trees and nonsense like that, and or you know, there's a good chance that he's doing it because he thinks that it's effectively getting him in front of the fighters he wants to get in front of, who happen to be of the same skin folk, right, as we are. It's cringeworthy, but it is what it is. He wants to separate himself from the whole entire boxing space. He doesn't want to be in the same conversation as Devin Haney or Gervonta Tank Davis. I mean, he wants to be in that conversation, but he understands the price. The price is he has to do something significant, something special, and he doesn't find anybody in his own weight class division at 140 pounds that will give him that, right? I personally think Subriel Matias would be a great fight for him. Gary Antoine Russ will be a great fight for him. There's fights there, but for him, in the appetite he's trying to satiate, he wants to do something incredible. He wants to chase and walk down a Terrence Crawford lane. He wants to challenge himself with either a Gervonta Boots Ennis or he wants to fight a Terrence Crawford. So now he puts his name in the hat and he wants to fight Jaron. Turkey Alalshikh loves this type of energy. He wants to put money behind this. So Gervonta Ennis has another option now. He can fight Teofimo Lopez for a lot of money. We can talk about a little bit later when Ray gets up here as far as how much legacy would there be in a fight with Teofimo Lopez, a fighter who does the power hasn't translated at 140 for him. You know, he is a lineal champion, a WBO champion at 140, but has he done anything that significant at 140 to make that fight special with Gervonta Boots Ennis? There's arguments either way for it, but without a doubt, there's a lot of money there for him. So the prize fighter part of Gervonta Boots Ennis would be attracted to fighting a Teofimo Lopez, right? Or wouldn't be against it. Of course, you have Brian Norman Jr. in there. Probably not the biggest payday, a payday regardless, because when you're a unified champion, the paydays are there. But is it the biggest payday? Probably not. But the legacy's there with Brian Norman Jr. in the same division. Now, with Brian Norman Jr., it takes him being a little bit more patient, right? Because the negotiations we already know is going to be diabolical, right? The negotiations with Brian Norman Jr. is going to be time consuming. And it's not a guarantee that you're going to get that fight, because the last time you guys negotiated, you guys end up walking away from the table and the fight didn't happen. How much time got wasted? You ended up in the ring with Karen. You ended up in a situation you didn't want to be in and had a performance that a lot of people criticized, got hit a lot by somebody who people didn't think should have translated into real competition for you. I personally feel like Karen is just a good fighter and people slept on him. Maybe I slept on him a little bit as well, but it is what it is. So we have to understand Gervonta Boots Ennis probably has a little hesitation about the way he approaches Brian Norman, and is probably ready already mentally to tap out and be like, the fight's not going to happen. Unless it's on paper and it's locked in, how much time is Gervonta Boots Ennis willing to wait on a Brian Norman Jr., especially with the time clock on Brian Norman on Gervonta Boots Ennis as far as his stay at 147. In other words, whatever he's going to do at 147 has to be productive, right? He has to make good with his time, because now the weight cuts are becoming more of a discipline thing. They're becoming more difficult. Now, granted, Gervonta Boots Ennis has bought himself some time when it comes to this weight cut conversation, because he's a unified champion, right? He's a unified champion, so he's no longer caught up in any rehydration clauses. But at the end of the day, eventually it's going to catch up to him. So any fight he does at 147 is either going to make sense for him, or being at 147 starts to lose a little bit of that luster and shine to it, and it starts to make more sense to consider moving up. I think the boxing space right now has come to terms with Gervonta Boots Ennis at 147 pounds, right? We're kind of over it to a degree. We can respect Jaron wanting to do something for his legacy at 147 pounds for his own personal needs, and we'll watch him fight these fights. I can't wait to see him in front of Brian Norman, and I'd watch him fight Teofimo as well. I think that's going to be a great fight. But at the end of the day, I think we all know that the real challenge and the real conversation we want to see Gervonta Boots Ennis get into is that 154-pound weight class division conversation. So Jaron has decisions to make. If you ask me, he's probably going to pick himself. He's going to do whatever works for himself, as he should, in my opinion. Don't do nothing for me, even though I'd love for you to do something for me. I'd love for you to fight the fights I want to see you fight. I'd love to see you do the things I want to see you get done. I'm a fan. I'm paying money, and there's fights I want to see stylistically. I want to see you in these fights. But at the end of the day, your life is on the line. You're the one making the sacrifices. You're going to do what makes sense for you. The boxing space may be relentless and cruel, right, and cold to your personal need to do the things you need to do for yourself, but don't let that steer you one way or the other. Jaron, do what you got to do, right? Any of these fights are great fights. I think, unfortunately, as far as boxing fans are concerned, we have to get a little bit more comfortable with understanding we're not going to get the answers to these questions until they decide to put the answers out there, because there's negotiations on the table, right? There's leverage on the table. You don't want to seem too needy, too thirsty. The last time Gervonta Boots Ennis and Brian Norman got into these negotiations, it went in a weird direction. Brian Norman leveraging Gervonta Boots Ennis's need of a unification fight, need of validation by fighting for a belt, being that he was elevated to a champion. And of course, Gervonta Boots Ennis dealing with a budget. I'm going to get paid as a fighter, but at the same exact time, I also have to be aware of how much I'm giving. And it ended up in an ugly, public, messy situation that turned into a big nothing burger, right? We got nothing for it. This time around, coming into it now, a unified champion, a lineal champion, makes a difference on how Gervonta Boots Ennis is going to treat this opportunity. And of course, Brian Norman having a Jin Sasaki fight around the corner that he's getting ready for, defending his title in Japan in front of a big audience like that may very well affect his market value and affect the way he comes to the negotiation table. Also affect the amount of interest that the fight has built up, which will probably change the price and the value of the fight as well, right? So we'll watch it as it manifests. Turkey obviously is going to push for his own agenda. We've got Eddie Hearn also pushing for his agenda, which is make the most money and put himself in the position with the less risk he can take as a promoter and the highest reward he can get. I think that is a situation that is, for Eddie Hearn, ideal for Jaron Boots Ennis to be in the 154-pound weight class division, right? To be in a situation, how about this? Ideal for him to be in a situation where he doesn't have to foot the bill, to where Turkey can take over on the money paid out for Jaron Boots Ennis, but it's only going to be in the fights that Turkey's interested in, right? And right now it seems like it's either 154-pound weight class opportunities or a Teofimo Lopez fight as far as Turkey is concerned. The Brian Norman fight is a fight that's going to be made between Matchroom and Top Rank exclusively. Turkey probably won't have a lot to share in that conversation. So we'll watch how that ends up turning out and keep our eye on it, right? We'll keep our eye on it. Let me take a look in the chat here. Salute to the people who stepped in the building. The Go in the building, or DGO in the building. Salute to you, family. Hold on a second. What's going on? I got so much going on in the chat right now. Let me see what's going on here. Shout out to the Cardenas in the building. Roscott in the building. Salute, Roscott. What's good with you, family? Salute to you. Salute to you. All right, what are we looking at here? Okay, conversation. Boots don't have to. Roscott said Boots don't have to go to 160 to prove he's a pound-for-pound fighter. He can stay at 147. He chooses to and fight who's there to prove it. Yeah, I agree, Roscott. I think Boots has options in all these weight divisions to kind of prove his point. I think him becoming a unified champion at 147 speaks to his point. I think him fighting the best fighters at 154 speaks to his point. And I think there's 160 160-pound opportunities up there as well to prove his point. The question is, where's Boots going to go, right? But we all have our favorite space we'd rather see him in. We think we all have fights we want to see him in. There's a lot of people who want to see Boots and Virgil Ortiz. We want to see Boots against Terrence Crawford. We want to see Boots against Errol Spence, maybe. You know what I mean? We want to see Boots, against a Bakram or against a Charles Conwell or Xander Zayas or, a lot of 154-pound fighters that are up there that we think are going to test him, right? So it is what it is. Let's see here. DGO, why you want him to rush up? He'll go to 154 when he's ready and he wants to. Yeah, DGO definitely is on the same page. He wants that 154-pound action from Boots. It is what it is, right? That's what he wants. He wants that action. It is what it is, man. We got to wait on these fighters and we'll see how their decisions age. And as boxing fans, we'll be sitting here watching it happen, right? Now I'm going to tap into one more topic here real quick here. We'll get into this topic. And then after that, my brother will come up here and we'll break down, go a little bit deeper into the conversation, these topics. I want to bring back up David Benavidez, guys. David Benavidez back in the conversation. Have you guys been watching David Benavidez? Did you get an opportunity to watch his interview? Are you watching what's happening with the newly crowned WBC light heavyweight champion of the world? Have you guys been paying attention to that? Guys, we've been on top of it over here. Speaking on David Benavidez, ever since he defeated David Morrell at 175, David Benavidez made his presence felt in the 175-pound division. He was always that guy at 168 pounds who wanted to see him fight Canelo Alvarez. We saw that not come to fruition. But when he came into the light heavyweight division, it was going to be a new challenge for David Benavidez. We saw him fight against Alexander Voznik, and we saw him deal with some adversity in that fight. Now, there's reasons and there's excuses, right? We don't care for the excuses in the boxing community, but reasons can be valid. David Benavidez went in that fight with Alexander Voznik with some pre-existing injuries in that fight, things that were ailing him that restricted his athletic ability to manifest what we've known him to do in 168 in that fight with Alexander Voznik, but still, regardless, defeated him, gave us an action-packed fight, put his all on the line, and walked out of that fight with a victory and became an interim WBC title holder at that time. What was the next step going to be for David Benavidez on the back end of that performance and him trying to make an argument as to what he ultimately wanted to do was become a champion? Although Turkey Alalshikh promised him the winner between Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev and things of that nature, he still had to wait for them to kind of figure it out. So what did he do? Well, the PBC tried to put him in front of Jesse Hart just to give him a fight to stay busy. But David said, no, this move is a significant move. The conversation that I was in at 168, I can't go into just being a contender or a regular fighter at 175. I have to continue to do special things. I have to continue to show monster qualities and continue to show my dominance in any space that I am, because I'm talking the big talk. I got to walk the big walk. So what did he do? He walks away from a Jesse Hart fight, and he gets involved in his own career, and he puts David Morrell on the chopping block. A fight that a lot of people felt like David Benavidez was ducking to a certain degree at 168, or wondered why he never fought David Morrell. Me personally, I've always subscribed to the idea that the big fight was going to be Canelo Alvarez. He fought the Caleb Plants, he fought the Lemieux, he fought the Dimitri Andrades. He fought those fights, but it was all in preparation and with the big picture being that I want to get in front of Canelo Alvarez. And David Morrell just at a 10-0 fighter, really on a prospect level on paper, right? We saw the eye test of David Morrell and knew the adversity and the things that he brought to the table. And we knew that maybe he could give some issues to David Benavidez, but really didn't earn his right to be in the conversation with David Benavidez over the conversation of David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez. But in the light heavyweight division, it was a different conversation. The PBC strategically moved David Morrell in a position to put him in the light heavyweight division, to give him a fight as well, to make him a regular or an interim version of the WBA champion in that division, and made it a conversation that David Benavidez couldn't get past. So what did he do? He says, I can't fight Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev winners. What I'll do is I'll do the next best thing. I'll fight David Morrell. Let's make that fight happen. Awesome. From a boxing fan's point of view, we loved David Benavidez for this decision, right? It was the best decision because he chose to fight the best. And he gave us what we've been complaining about all the time when it came to American boxers, the fact that we weren't getting the fights that we wanted to get. He checked that box for us and made a lot of fans. He already had fans, but he made a lot more fans with that decision and shot off one of the best pay-per-view events of the year between him and David Morrell a little bit earlier this year, right? Great event, great fight, and showed out and showed why he is truly El Monstro. I want to say El Monstero, El Monstro. I don't know, right? The monster. Shout out to Mike Tyson, right? He showed us why he is who he is and made even more of an argument as to why Canelo Alvarez doesn't want to fight him, right? We understood as we watching him develop and fight why he's such a dangerous fighter, and a lot of fighters don't want to get in the ring with him. But after that fight, we were sold on the idea that the next fight for David Benavidez should be for a title, right? As an interim champion, we didn't want him to continue to have the career he had at 168, where he was an interim champion walking around with 3 WBC titles around his waist, right? From different interim titles that he fought, and he never could get the real thing because Canelo Alvarez was a coddled, let me not respectfully, right? But he was a protected, in protection fighter. The sanctioning bodies didn't want to ever get out of the Canelo Alvarez business. Let's just be honest. That 3% was the most important thing when it came to Canelo Alvarez. So him saying he wasn't going to fight David Benavidez was never going to be something that Mauricio Suleiman was going to put his mouth into as far as a conversation is concerned. He wasn't going to hold Canelo Alvarez accountable, and it left David Benavidez out in the cold. So he was arguably forced out of that super middleweight division into the light heavyweight division. But this time around, David Benavidez wasn't going to go through the same thing. Right? He wasn't going to allow that to happen. And he spoke very frankly about it, to say that no longer waiting on these fighters to fight me. If I can't get it here, I'll go get it there. It doesn't matter. So David gets invited out to Saudi Arabia by Turkey Alalshikh, who's standing on business, saying, I told you I was going to hold you down. I'm going to fly you out here, and we're going to chop it up, and we're going to talk business. We're going to talk about how we're going to get you in a situation where you can become a unified, undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world. We're going to talk about how we're going to make that happen. Come on down to the Dimitri Bivol Artur Beterbiev fight in Riyadh season, where they're fighting for the belts that you want. Let's watch the fight. And at the end of that fight, let's figure out where you fit in and where it makes most sense for you to be at, with the ultimate goal being getting you in front of the winner of this fight. We saw the fight. We know Dimitri Bivol ended up winning that fight. It became a 1-1 situation between Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. And naturally, I think we all knew before both those fighters left the ring that there was going to be a trilogy in that fight, because now it was 1-1. We'd have to have the tiebreaker. David Benavidez was there, interestingly enough, giving interviews, speaking on why he was there and what he expected, and if that one of these guys, Dimitri Bivol won the fight, that he was expecting a trilogy. Said he was open to a Caleb Smith fight. He gave these interviews, but something changed for David. Something changed. Throughout the process, something changed. David Benavidez ended up leaving Saudi Arabia abruptly, and we don't know what happened. We didn't understand what was going on. What happened? Did David Benavidez get insulted? Did something happen? What caused him to come out there and only spend a little bit of time and end up flying right back to the States? Left you wondering, what kind of conversation did David Benavidez and Turkey Alalshikh have to have David Benavidez feeling that way? He seemed elated to be in the space, celebrated Turkey Alalshikh's presence in the boxing space, and thought he was good for boxing. He expressed that Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev should run the trilogy. He expected, being that Artur Beterbiev afforded Dmitry Bivol a rematch and opportunity to redeem himself. It was only right that in turn, Dmitry Bivol do the same for Artur Beterbiev, and he was ready to wait, but something changed. A few weeks later, guys, what do we see? Mauricio Sulaiman puts out a statement saying that Dmitry Bivol has a mandatory against David Benavidez, and he had a month's time to make a decision on how he was going to deal with it, to whether he was going to fight David Benavidez and go into a negotiation or a purse bid of sorts to make the fight come together, or Dmitry Bivol would be stripped of the WBC title. Guys, it was weird. From the outside looking in, it was weird. What in the hell were we looking at? Less than a month after this guy becomes champion, you're threatening to strip him of his title? I mean, we've seen the IBF move with a little bit of the same energy to a degree, but this did seem a little egregious, being that Canelo Alvarez walked around as a WBC champion for years and never had to fight David Benavidez. We watched Artur Beterbiev walk around with that WBC title for years and never have to, never had that kind of pressure put on him. But when Dmitry Bivol got the belt, Mauricio Sulaiman decided that it was the time to make this happen. And naturally and organically, as a result of that, Dmitry Bivol was set in a space where he either had to make a fight happen with David Benavidez or stay true to where his bread was buttered, which was with Turkey Alalshikh, and honoring that trilogy rematch clause. I think Dmitry did the right thing, right? He respected the agreement and the handshake or whatever have you that he had with Turkey Alalshikh and Artur Beterbiev. He decided to make that fight the next fight, and in turn, he had to vacate that WBC title, and here we are today in the present moment to where David Benavidez is now an elevated WBC champion. He's sitting on a belt, and he's legitimately the champion, right? But it's weird looking because at the end of the day, how does David Benavidez feel about being emailed a championship? Technically being a champion, never fighting a champion. Anyways, David Benavidez does an interview earlier this week with Henry Cejudo and Kamaru Usman. If you guys aren't familiar with the guys, they have a podcast. I think it's called the Champ podcast. I can't remember what it's called, but both these guys are UFC fighters. Maybe some of you guys are familiar with them. Maybe you're not. He does a great interview, and it's always great to get it from the horse's mouth, right? It's always a great thing to hear it from the horse's mouth, what's going on, because we do so much speculating in the boxing space. We do so much speculating in the boxing space. Whenever we get the fighter to actually come out and speak to something, it's always a breath of fresh air, a moment of clarity, an opportunity that we fight for to see with our favorite fighters. And David Benavidez did this interview. Henry Cejudo and Kamaru Usman, salute to those guys, did a great job, asked all the questions, a lot of the questions that we wanted the answers to. And David Benavidez did his best to give the answers to those questions. What did I get from that interview? I got that David Benavidez was put into a situation where he was damned if he did and he damned if he didn't. David Benavidez is a company man and loyal to the soil that put him where he's at. He got too much respect for Al Heyman in the PBC and Tom Brown and what they've done for him to go against that grain. And he's been presented with a very awkward, complicated situation when he went to Saudi Arabia. He got presented with that situation and he made his decision. What was the situation he got presented with? He got presented with the idea that he could move on his own right now, take his career into his own hands, bet on himself and say, listen, to the PBC, the same way Errol Spence did to a certain degree, and say, you guys are either going to ride with me or I'm going to ride by myself. But I'm not ready to walk away from this opportunity that's in front of me. If Turkey Alalshikh indeed is going to provide you with a lucrative payday to fight Caleb Smith, and you believe in yourself that way, and also assuring you that you're going to get the winner between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol, that decision right there would have benefited David Benavidez exclusively and maybe not benefited the PBC as much as it did David. We can be honest and say that the PBC has been in a rebuilding phase ever since they left Showtime, or excuse me, Showtime left them, right? That they've been building this relationship with Amazon, that they've been building value up, and they're trying to get themselves to where they were before that separation happened. They need the David Benavidez, Gervonta Tank Davis to stay loyal to them. And as much control as they can have puts them in a position to make the most money, to give the PBC the light that they want. And sometimes the interest of the company doesn't necessarily align with the interest of the fighter. And it looks like that we might be dealing with that right now, right? It looks like we might be dealing with the fact that David Benavidez, and we know that timing is everything in boxing. Today's price, yesterday's price is never today's price. What you can do today, you're not promised to be able to do tomorrow. There's a wear and tear of the boxing game on these fighters, mentally and physically, that has to be taken into consideration with the way these fighters are moving. And right now, in my personal opinion, it's the perfect time for David Benavidez. It's his time. But it involves a little bit of selfishness, potentially, in order for David Benavidez to get what he deserves out of the game, right? It deserves a little bit of selfishness, one would argue, that he has to put his career and himself over everybody else. It's the time to do it. I don't think he's ready to do that. I question if the decision he made that night in Saudi Arabia is aging well today. Where are we today with David Benavidez, guys? Where are we? Where we are is David Benavidez is in a situation where he is a WBC champion. He no longer has the ability to wield the leverage of mandatory position, because as a champion, you no longer can be a mandatory. He can no longer wield that the way he did before. And he's on the side of the street, and you guys know I hate side of the street conversations, but he's not on the same side of the street who probably is controlling the pulse of the two divisions he wants to compete in, the light heavyweight division and the cruiserweight division. Samson Leakowitz has tried to put himself in an A-side position in these negotiations, and I think it's not aging well. David Benavidez is a great fighter. He probably sells more pay-per-views than Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. He probably puts more asses in seats than these guys do. But the addition of Turkey Alalshikh into this game has changed the outlook of this game. When you're talking about fighters getting their biggest paydays in, let's say, the Times Square event we looked at with Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, in front of 200 people, how much does asses in seats really count at the negotiation table? How much does pay-per-view sales count at the negotiation table when the payment going out to these fighters aren't taking that into consideration? Samson Leakowitz, PBC, David Benavidez, they're used to these negotiations working in a certain way based off of influence. I think it's a different conversation with Turkey Alalshikh. And because of that, trying to dictate the terms and conditions of how a fight is going to be to where the opportunity is there for you to become undisputed is going to always come off diabolical. It's just not going to work, right? It's not going to work. And it doesn't look like it's working. So where are we right now? We're in a position right now where David Benavidez is a champion. It's Samson Leakowitz's responsibility to make David Benavidez's next fight the big fight. Jose Benavidez Sr. has spoken about how he feels about it. He wants to fight either Caleb Smith or Anthony Yarde next to put himself in position to get the winner between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. Jose Benavidez Sr. has also communicated that if those opportunities aren't there, they've already been in open negotiations with Oscar De La Hoya to coordinate a fight at the cruiserweight division to fight Zerto Ramirez. Samson Leakowitz has his work in front of him, and he has to make it happen and make it make sense. On the other side of the conversation, we have a Ring Magazine event that's getting put together, and rumor has it that Turkey Alalshikh may be interested in putting together an Anthony Yarde, Caleb Smith fight, two fighters, coincidentally enough, that David Benavidez wants to fight next. If those fighters fight each other next, there's a good chance that the winner of those fighters will get the next opportunity to the winner of Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. The situation is getting complicated for David Benavidez. Slowly but surely, as time is moving on, he's losing that leverage, and it looks like the decision he made that night in Saudi Arabia may not be aging well. Granted, at the same time, Caleb Smith has talked about how he'd be more than willing to fight David Benavidez. And we've also heard Eddie Hearn speak to the fact that he's also been in negotiations with the PBC. They're having conversations of potentially putting that fight together with Caleb Smith and David Benavidez. So that's a good thing, right? If that goes David Benavidez's way, he'll stay in the light heavyweight division. He won't move around. And naturally, he should be the next one in line to fight Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. This will make the decision in Saudi Arabia age a little bit better, right? A little bit better. Because at least the next two steps for David Benavidez will kind of be secured. But if it goes the other way, his hands are going to be tied. And what's the ulterior option? That David Benavidez goes up to the cruiserweight division, puts on 25 more pounds to go fight Zurdo Ramirez. At the end of that, assuming that David Benavidez beats Zurdo Ramirez, let's hope he doesn't lose. But if he does beat Zurdo Ramirez, does he come back down to the light heavyweight division to challenge himself and try to become an undisputed champion? He said, and Jose Benavidez said, Senior said that that's what they'd be looking to do. It wouldn't be a problem. Guys, we've watched this already happen. Putting on 25 pounds and cutting 25 pounds. Listen, if you do it right, it could be okay. But we know there's a good chance and a good probable chance outside of a great nutritionist, real strict discipline from David Benavidez, that this could be one of the most damaging things he does to his career. Who knows what those results will look like? We watched Roy Jones Jr. go up and compete with Carlos Ruiz, go up there 210 pounds and go compete as a heavyweight and be required to come back down and fight against an Antonio Tarver in the light heavyweight division, and we watch him get clipped and put to sleep, right? And if you talk to Roy Jones today, he'll tell you the worst mistake he ever made was coming back down in weight to fight against Antonio Tarver. He says it. I've spoken to Roy Jones, you know what I'm saying? And he said it, right? So it's an interesting position that David Benavidez has found himself in. We're watching it as it develops, obviously. We don't know one way or the other. Last Caleb Smith spoke at the Josh Taylor fight. He basically said that the negotiations were there. He's waiting on Eddie Hearn to return from his trip to Japan. I believe, oh man, this morning I missed that fight. I am bugging, bro. Don't nobody tell me the results of that fight between Rikishi and Nunes, man. I'm gonna catch that as soon as I get off this get off this conversation to see if we have a new IBF champion. And if it's who I think it is, that conversation is going to be another conversation we could talk about tomorrow about Raymond Ford's next move. But anyway, that being said, David Benavidez has to sit on his decision. Mauricio Suleiman did what was best for the WBC. Clearly, the PBC is doing what's best for the PBC. Is David Benavidez doing what's best for David Benavidez? Time will tell that story, right? Time will tell that story. It is what it is. If you walk like a duck, you talk like a duck, blah, 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 blah. No. Hold on a second here. Pick up. Bear with me, guys. No. One moment. Okay. Time will tell how that one goes, right? Let's check out in the chat and see what's going on here, man. Rod Scott, of course, in the building says Benavidez moved to 168 and went from Mexican monster to the Cookie Monster. Ouch. Bub Boxer said, Clay, this is America. It's a democracy. People have choices. Everyone doesn't have to work with Turkey. 100%. Hey, listen, man. Hey, Bubs, don't do that. Nobody's saying David had to do nothing or that you know he was well within his right to operate inside of his freedom of choice. He made a decision. The question is the choice aging well? That's what's important. That's what we're talking about. Clearly he did what he was allowed to do, right? He clearly did what he was allowed to do. Nobody can't take that away from him. The question is it aging well, right? Is it aging well? Bub says Turkey is not the only way to success. Many other great fighters somehow made it without Turkey, like Roy Jones. Turkey had nothing to do with his career. He had a great one. Bubs, you're off topic, right? You're not speaking in the present moment. Roy Jones moved around boxing accordingly. He moved around boxing strategically to get what he needed to get. Turkey wasn't there when Roy Jones was there. So you're speaking, respectfully, right? Like it has nothing to do. One thing has nothing to do with the other, what you're saying. It legitimately just doesn't. There was a version of Turkey, I'm sure, in that time period. Somebody who had the card, somebody who had the opportunities, somebody who had the ability to facilitate you with the opportunities you wanted to get, and you had to move yourself around accordingly to get there. We talk about it all the time with Shakur Stevenson right now, where conversations are, if Shakur wants to make a fight with Tank Davis, that you guys would argue he should be over there with the PBC, that where he is stopping him from getting where he needs to be. So being in a present moment where David Benavidez looks to operate and fulfill his legacy in the light heavyweight division and the cruiserweight division, the question is, where he is right now, do the people who wield the power to move his career one way or the other have the opportunities he needs? Do they have access to the fighters that he wants to fight against? There's an argument to say no, they don't. That the people who control the Caleb Smiths, the Anthony Yardis, the Dimitri Bivens, the Artur Beterbiev, the Jai Opatais, the people who are controlling this division are on the other side of the street right now with David Benavidez. And is the decision he made aging well as far as the opportunity that he's going to get? We'll see. We'll see if Samson Linkowitz is able to go ahead and facilitate that for him. But that's what the conversation is about. It's not about over-celebrating Turkey Alalshikh, or it's not about crucifying the PBC or throwing shots anywhere where shots don't need to be thrown. It's about David Benavidez moving his career the right way so that he gets what he needs out of boxing. And has he done it or hasn't he done it? And is it going to take him doing it? When Errol Spence Jr. had to get into negotiations with Terrence Crawford, he ultimately had to put his foot down and make it clear what he wanted. Because hindsight says the story is the powers that be were not working with Errol Spence to get him what he wanted. He had to be belligerent and he had to stand on business about what he wanted. It comes a point in time when you can see a lot of fighters who had to do that. Terrence Crawford had to move away from Top Rank. He had to ultimately do a deal with the PBC to get that fight with Errol Spence. He couldn't do it on his own. All these fighters have a moment in time, especially when it comes to being great, where they have to take their careers into their own hands. You see it happen over and over and over again. Canelo Alvarez did the same thing, right? He was at DAZN for a moment because it fit his interest best. Then another moment he went to the PBC because it fit his interest best. And of course, now he's over there with Turkey Alalshikh because it fits his interest. Great fighters have to do these things. Salute to my brother Ray Davis in the building.
Salute. I just want to respond to the last part that was responding to you, because I just want to put some clarity on something. No disrespect to anybody in the room. If Benavidez cared about his fans so much, he would have stayed at 168 and fought Canelo instead of moving to 175 when he got the option to do so and not taking the opportunity. Also, he would have pressed for the fight with Canelo because he was the mandatory not once, not twice, but 3 times. So at that note, he didn't really care for his fans then. He would have did what the fans wanted him to do, and that's fight Canelo. Nobody else, nothing else, nothing. Take a stance in boxing and maybe even hold himself out. It doesn't matter what Canelo wanted. He would have taken the fight with Canelo if he wanted to do what his fans wanted. But I end that note. Salute Clay. Salute to the Queen, the Cardenas, everybody in the building. Bubs, of course. I don't know where you be coming from, but that dead rock, you need to crawl back under and come back with some new nonsense, brother. I love you, though. But you see, you know what I mean? Sonny Augustine, everybody in the building, salute, been watching. Ross Clot, the best brother in the world, humble but hateful, love it. But yeah, let's kick it. So I mean, I know you've been talking about a lot of things. I don't know if you want to start off with the whole Thomas Hill. Of course, Tommy the Hitman Hill in the building. You know what I mean? AKA the mayor of YouTube. Always selectively. And Rallo Green in the building. Rallo Green. So if you want to start off with the Shakur thing, and that's how you started the show, I really wanted to take a take. Yeah, I was really literally thinking about some of this stuff as you was building. And I'm sitting there like, didn't Shakur, when he moved to 135, know that at one point in time it would be brought up, Keyshawn, that would be brought into question that, you know what I mean, he came in there saying he wanted all the smoke. He wanted this. He ain't ducking nobody. He ain't running for nobody. He want all the smoke at 135. He don't care who it is, blah, 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 blah. I can go on and on. Then he later said that, you know what I mean, when he go for the belt, he'll fight Devin, which we already know he didn't do that. But when he fight Tank, it's for the bag. But he loved gold. So, you know what I mean, that Devin fight might be coming around the corner. No mention of Keyshawn. And for the respect of Keyshawn was more of a cheerleader. I think in Keyshawn's eyes was, I want to help Shakur get this fight. I want Shakur to run his division, get out of this division so I can make my run. I think there was a plan in place with them. I think what happened was Keyshawn grew a fan base. And I think elbows rubbed a little bit. Okay, you got your fans, but no, I'm fighting the way that they want you to fight. You need to get in there and do it. Not whatever conversations happen. And I think now Keyshawn has taken it on him to say that I'm the man in this division. I don't care who you are anymore. Like, yeah, I respect you. I respect everybody in the division, but I'm the man. They got to come through me. Now I got a title. I didn't have plans of getting this title because you were supposed to go take the title from Devin. But you was too busy asking for more than 25% and then sitting it somewhere it didn't need to go. You never got the titles. Therefore, I'm here now. You got to come through me. And I think that's kind of the settlement that we're getting with this conversation. I still think Gervonta is a big player on the board. I think that whoever gets the IBF, whether it be Loma coming back or them rewarding Maratala for the title, is still another player on the board. But at the same time, we already know when you got the two chess pieces on the same side of the board playing against the other side of the board, those two chess pieces, somebody's going to stab each other in the back. And it was just a matter of time. Whether it is factual or not, it's still a matter of time.
Right. The stab in the back thing, that's what it gets painted as, right? And that's when it becomes complicated, because it's not a stab in the back. It's what we came here for. What is there something for where we met? Where we met was in a space to where we both decided that we were going to be fighters for our career. And we understood that we also were around the same weight class, right? And that we were going to compete in the same divisions. Was it irresponsible of them for them not to take the consideration that it may come down to them fighting each other, and the willingness to fight each other should have been off their strength of the respect they have for each other, right? Like Mike Tyson said, I always go back to it because he kept it so 100. Said, man, if you're my friend, what I'm going to do is fight you. If we in the boxing game, that's my way to give you the paydays. So Shakur Stevenson and Keyshawn Davis put themselves in a real awkward situation, right? How much empathy should we have for them at this point? Because the reality is that they're not real brothers in real time. They're brothers based off, sometimes blood is not thick in the water. I was talking to my wife a little bit about this earlier to say that, blood isn't what dictates my loyalty to you all the time. Because there's people who I'm related to who I don't F with, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And there's people who I'm not related to, blowouts, who I'm super loyal to, you know what I mean? It is what it is. But was the problem in the fact that you guys got so close to your understanding, like that you weren't going to be able to separate that when it came time to fighting? Sean Porter and Terrence Crawford fought each other. They had a mutual respect for each other. They liked each other. They felt like they even spoke about not wanting to fight each other, but also understanding that they were willing to fight each other when it came down to settling certain conversations. We're in the same space now, unfortunately. We're close in the rankings in the same space. I have something you want. You may have something I want. We may have to fight. Isn't there an argument to say that there was a big irresponsibility by both these guys to carry it that way, to where they were going to be in the same division, be champions in the same division, but never fight each other?
Yes. And that was actually what I hit on before. I think we were discussing this with ETB on the channel one time. And I had mentioned the Bud and Sean Porter situation, and I was met with, that's a different situation. Okay, it's different, but yet the situation ultimately is different. But at the same time, the baseline of it's the same. Was my point. And it being the same is, eventually you got to come to head. You can't avoid it. Either somebody's got to move or somebody's got to stay, and you're going to meet. So it's one or the other. I don't care either way if they don't fight or they do fight. I would like it to happen, but it doesn't make a difference to me. It's their money, it's their job, it's their, them ducking each other or not fighting each other or loving each other, whatever the case may be. That's on them. That's a prerogative. They do what they want. In the quote of Bobby Brown, let them have it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, let these guys make their decision. I don't think ultimately too I don't think Keyshawn was even calling him out. I think he was just more addressing, and people took it and ran with it. I think it was more of him addressing the whole scenario with Hitchens, because remember, Hitchens was the one that was really talking crazy about Shakur.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was Hitchens. And I think Shakur just was like, look, I'm not taking that seriously. You know what I mean? Or maybe they had some words before that and they got on camera and it changed. At the end of the day, it is what it is. They were on camera, buddied up, talking a good one. You just seen Hitchens who talk mad-ish about Devin. And what is he doing? Laughing on camera with Bill.
Right.
Does that mean that he and Bill are not supposed to be there? Should Keyshawn comment on that and be like, look, you fake, blah, 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 you and Bill, they ain't your uncle, blah, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. To me, it was a hint of jealousy, in my opinion. And I think it's because they have a bond, and I think that they all had a bond at one point, but I think that bond, like, they was like, Shakur probably was like, yo, I ain't even messing with that dude, and then how it came over. Clay, you got abs again, by the way. It's hilarious. So do I. But at the same time, bro, we have to stay focused on what it really is. It's boxing. The name of the game is boxing, and they're both pawns on the board, man, and it's the promoters that got to make it happen. One, I don't even think that happens because of the fact that Bob Arum is not going to allow that to happen. Bob Arum doesn't want Shakur probably on none of his cards no more. There's why you won't see him probably unified with anybody else. So there's a lot of things that come from this, Clay. I think Shakur is actually looking to move. I think he's made a decision. He knows it's hard for him to fight in this division. He's not getting the fights that he wants. And hence that Gervonta Tank is talking about stepping down and away from the game for a minute, right? So what does that do? It leaves no other choice but for these guys to go and meet each other, fight each other. And I think Tank is being smart. I think he's letting them what you call it, elimination. Let them all eliminate each other. Yeah, process of elimination, right? Let them eliminate each other, and then I'll step in and fight the winner. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And I ain't mad at him.
I agree. It's strategic to a point because at the end of the day, I don't want to fight them all. I don't think some fighters are into that kind of stuff, but I think there is a triangle theory thing about matchmaking to a certain degree, right? Like if Keyshawn beats Shakur, then he may not need to fight Shakur as much as Keyshawn. And fighting Keyshawn may check the boxes to a degree to where him not fighting Shakur is, not that serious, or vice versa. And I understand a lot of the boxing fans, when we talk about Tank fighting these fights, what do they throw at us? Well, why don't Shakur fight Keyshawn? Or they'll say, why don't, you know what I mean? They want these guys, why don't Devin fight Shakur? You know what I mean? Even though it's a deflection tactic, right? Because we're not talking about Shakur, Devin, and none of these guys. We're talking about Tank fighting these guys in particular. We're not saying, sometimes I think the picture gets painted that we're saying he needs to fight all these fighters. No, but you got to start somewhere. Fight one of them at least. You know what I mean? Begin the process of fighting one of them at some point, and then we can remove the pressure from you at that point, because now we can put the pressure on them. Like, well, Tank fighting this guy, who you fighting? Right. But there's a legitimacy behind the argument, though, that we can acknowledge, to say that when you got two fighters like Shakur Stevenson and Keyshawn Davis in the same division refusing to fight each other, that deserves some attention as well. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I agree.
Right.
You want to stay there? Or you want to move on to the Boots thing?
Oh, let's move on to the Boots thing, man.
Okay, let's keep it rolling. So I think the result of that, yes, sir. The result of the Boots thing, in my opinion, I think is going to be that Boots is the guy that's supposed to replace everybody's favorite fighter.
Right.
Let's keep it real. He's the next generation.
Right.
So people already crowned him, and I think that the crown that they beholded Boots is not living up to the respect that they have for him. And I think deep down inside, they're pushing for that to earn that respect. So they're looking every which way for him to do certain things. I think people know who Boots is, and I think it's respectable of who he is. I think at the same time, we have to look at both windows. T.O. is a person that's ultimately just looking for the biggest and best name. He doesn't care. He already has a loss on his resume, so he knows how to bounce back. Rather he goes in there and puts on the show, he's going to give it his all. Does he pose a problem for Boots? Any fighter poses a problem for any fighter. I don't care who it is. You can say what you want to say. It's a reason why it's called boxing. It's a reason why they box. We can assume, we can guess, we can do whatever we want and wish. But at the end of the day, these guys got to go in there and duke it out, and there will be a winner prevailing. We're either right or we're wrong. We watch fights because we want to see, we know the guy's going to win, but there's always a chance of an upset. And that's the reason why we watch these things. We don't watch it because we know this guy's going to automatically win. If that was the case, we wouldn't watch it. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you can believe what you want to believe or say what you want to say, but at the end of the day, we know what it is, Clay. It's we have expectations, but we also know that there's a chance of flaw. With Boots, we know there's a chance of flaw with a T.O. fight or a Brian Norman fight or possibly which was a Devin Haney. A lot of people put that perspective on Devin Haney and then was like, he'll get washed. How do we know that? Devin Haney fought his last fight like Keshawn's first fight, right? Devin Haney also is a guy that stays in the middle of the ring and he knows how to move laterally, which we've seen him do with Regis. We've seen him stay in the pocket with Loma, regardless, smaller fighter or not. We've seen him do these things. He fought the taller fighter in Abdullah and the taller fighter in Moran. So him fighting taller fighters, we've seen him happen with Ryan. So there's things that happen that we can say that these fights may not go the way we have planned, but we all see the foreseeable future as Boots being a victor in all these opportunities. But these fighters don't believe the same thing we believe. They believe in themselves. We have to respect that. As far as Teal's antics to get the fight, I think we're past that. I'm past it. That's 3 weeks ago, bro. I'm really like, whatever. I don't even hear about him in the news no more, except for people that bring him up with this nonsense. Let's just keep it moving. I don't know. I don't know where we see Boots next. I think he moves to 154 if he doesn't sign that Boots that Teal fight, because I think Brian Norman's fight is too far down the line. We're talking December. Is he going to be able to hold on to the belts that long to unify? Maybe he plays injury, then he can't lose the belts, because if you get an injury, what happens? You can kind of hold off on losing your title due to deadlines. So, things like that can work itself out. But as far as I know, if he doesn't get this Brian Norman fight and he doesn't get this Teal fight, I see him going to 154. There's no need for him to hang around. Let these young guys that moved up or the smaller guys that moved up in the division, let them go there and fight. Let them have at it. You go up there and challenge yourself, because I think Boots is always there for the challenge. I think that's what's important for Boots, is being there for the challenge. And I think if he's not going to challenge himself and he's draining himself to fight these smaller fighters, you'll never see pure dominance or the skill set that he really brings to the table. So that's what I weigh in on the Boots fight.
Man, I agree with you, man. Great build on that, man. Yeah, man, 100%, man. I think obviously the decision is with Boots as well. The fans just, as fans, we just want to see what we want to see. So I'm never mad at the fans. The people who are like, I want to see him at 154 or whatever. I think the duck conversation gets kind of diabolical. Sometimes they want to just they think that's going to motivate the fighter, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, come on, prove to us you're not you know what I mean? Boots is not in a place to where he has to prove to us what we think he needs to prove to us.
Right.
I think he will prove to us. I think until he proves to us what needs to be proved to us, that we're not going to be there, we have the right to say that. But at the end of the day, the next move don't got to be our best move. Right. Sometimes there's strategy in how people approach things, and you can only fight one fight at a time, right? Boots is in a situation where he's damned if he do, he damned if he don't. Because if he goes and he fights Teofimo next, they'll say he ducked Brian Norman, because he should have went and fought him for the If he fights Brian Norman next, they'll say he ducked Tio. If he goes to 154 right now and goes to fight Virgil Ortiz, they'll say he ducked Tio and Brian Norman. He can't, what I'm saying? No matter what he does, he's damned. It's getting to a point with him where the next decision is going to be his best decision. And that's what you got to focus on, especially in the American boxing space. And I say that exclusively because this is a very critical boxing space in comparison to other spaces. We pass judgment. We're very mean. We lack very little empathy for fighters. We don't respect effort as much as other spaces do. We don't respect people who try to be as great as possible. So we end up in these situations where we're criticizing boxers on doing things that we ourselves aren't capable of doing. We don't respect the craft enough to not cross certain lines, right?
That's the issue.
So it is an issue. It's a big issue. And I think fighters like Boots, Terrence Crawford, Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, yes, even Gervonta Tank Davis, these fighters have learned based on how we've treated them to not take us into consideration as much as other fighters do when it comes to making these fights, right?
I got a great analogy for that. It's like, you can be your favorite football player. You can go buy their jersey. You can't buy anything the boxer has besides a T-shirt from their website, right? So what can you do to represent that boxer? Nothing but cheer for them and root for them. So I kind of understand, but then let's move the needle a little bit. What can you do for your favorite players or your favorite rappers, for instance, right? You can wear the same gear.
HLB.
Yeah, I see him in the building. Right? You see, and Rick Timms is in here too, by the way, salute. But your favorite rappers, you go buy the same hat they had on. You go buy the same sneakers they had on. You go buy the same shirt they had. Whatever. You mimicking your favorite rapper. And you can't do that in the sense of boxing. You're not going to go in the street and start doing what your boxer do in the ring and get into a street fight, because you probably either get clipped or you get dunked on your head, one or the other, depending on the person. You might win. You might not do it out. Who knows? But the thing is, it's not legal, right? There's not things you can do just legal to just go down the street and start boxing people. So you want to move a different way. So you want to start training. You want to become a boxer. That's different. But that's your own element, because you want to be yourself. You want to be your own fighter. You want to be those fighters. So now we're moving into the needle of rooting for your favorite fighter. That's the only way you have a chance to stand on the grounds and the blocks of your favorite fighter, Clay, is to do so by saying everything and anything for your favorite fighter. You have nothing else you can relate to yourself for that, right? Okay, I'm going to stand behind Tank. I'm going to say this about Tank. I'm going to stand behind Devin. I'm going to say this behind Devin. Benavidez, I'm going to stay behind him. Canelo, I'm going to say that's what you do, because you're not wearing a Canelo shirt. You're not walking around with the strap like Canelo and looking crazy in public, right? You're not dyeing your hair red and putting freckles in your face. You're not going around wearing chrome heart chairs and getting your hair stretched out or whatever it was, and having a picture hair grease in your eyes. You ain't doing all that. You know what I mean? You're coming out there and you're supporting your fighter. And the way they do it is by talking shit. And that's what they do. And that's what we live with. So we have to understand that the society is different. You know what I mean? It ain't like you saying, yo, Jay-Z better than Nas, and Nas is better than Dr. Dre, and Dre is better. It's not the same. You know what I mean? You can't relate the same. So that's what I think that's what it comes down to. It's like, it's just a ring of how we support our fighters as a pair, as opposed to us being in an arena of other things and how we represent those other things. Boxing is the only way we can represent that way.
Yeah. Shout out HLD said, is Claymore saying he respects and backs up Canelo for not fighting Benavidez? Yes, I do respect Canelo for not doing it. I respect his right to do that. Do I agree with it?
No.
There's a yes and a no to it for me. I'll be honest with you, because there's a part of me that says if he's allowed to do it, why shouldn't he do it? There's a part of me that says if he can be a champion and not have to fight David Benavidez, that he doesn't have anything left to prove to the boxing space. He's an undisputed champion at 168. He's already a legend and a Hall of Famer in his own right. There's nothing for him to prove to himself. In a situation where I look at the Canelo and David Benavidez situation, I put the onus on top of the sanctioning bodies. I put it on the WBCs, who I hold more accountable for not standing on business when it comes to stripping or forcing purse bids or, giving options to Canelo to either vacate or defend the title. That's where I put the pressure at when it comes to that conversation as far as Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez is concerned. But I think Canelo Alvarez clearly is well within his right to not do what he doesn't have to do. So yeah, man, I definitely respect it. Do I back it up? No. I want him to fight David Benavidez. You know what I'm saying? I don't back it, but I don't need to back it, but I respect it. I think he's earned the right to do that. And I think he's been given the space to do it in. You know what I mean? I might do the same if I was given the same freedom he got. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is.
Listen, you get to a point. I think I talked about this about a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. Bud and Terrence Crawford has done everything. Bud and Canelo Alvarez have done everything they did in boxing where they can move the way they want to move. You can't hold them accountable for anything, and they don't care because they already did all the things they had to do in boxing. Guy's he's damn near 70 fights, about to touch 80, maybe he'll go 75, whatever. He already did everything. He beat everybody. He went through divisions. He's multiple division champions, 2-time undisputed. Like, what more does he have to do? Because he ain't fight one guy, so what? People have not fought certain people in their careers. Nobody ever thought Mike Tyson was going to fight Lennox Lewis. They thought Mike Tyson was to the point where he was washed up and that was past him. He would never come back and fight him. But when he did, he did. We don't know what Canelo has in his future. He may pass the torch to Benavidez one day. We don't know that. At the same time, same thing with Bud. Bud doesn't have to fight Boots or fight anybody else. They're past their time. They fight who they want. They earned the right to do so. And we'll say the same thing for the future fighters that have moved up in the divisions. They don't have to fight the guy that you want them to see because they're up and coming. They fight who they need to and who they want to. Doesn't matter. I don't call it a duck, but I would like to see them, just as any other fan, fight the best fight the best, right? Especially if you're going to be in that Floyd Mayweather era. But I think Bill Haney made a good statement when he said that era is kind of over because everyone was chasing money, and now it seems that the belts are coming back into the picture. So now that the belts are coming back into the picture, or the legacy or the career of the fighter, we're starting to see like people starting to make strategic moves and make themselves look better in the ring and how to help their careers. That's all.
Yeah. HLD says, so what has Boots proven to duck Tio when nothing else is on the table?
Oh my God. I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I put it up here. I love these questions, bro. HLD is one of my guys on this thing, man, because the conversation is always so, and it's always boxing, right? He's always going to keep it boxing. I love it.
Except for wrestling and drugs.
We're always going to be on separate sides of this conversation to a degree. And look, I'm not dismissing HLD's perspective when it comes to the Teofimo conversation, right? But I'm going to keep it 100 to say that, you know, I don't think it's no secret HLD's a fan of Teofimo, you know what I mean? And not a fan in a negative way, like boy fanatic, like boy fanboy, you know what I mean? Not like that. But, you know, listen, man, he believes Teofimo is a talent, but he acknowledges that it can only be proven in the ring. And when Teofimo has opportunities like this in front of him to prove how talented he is and validate HLD's conversations for the past year, 2 years about who Teofimo is, 3 years, you know, HLD's not going to let this slide easily. He believes Teofimo is the guy to do what a lot of people don't think Teofimo is going to do against Gervonta Boots Ennis. The same way I feel about Terrence Crawford and the opportunity to fight Canelo Alvarez, and how I believe this is the opportunity he needs based off of his lack of opportunity during his career, being on the wrong side of the street, not getting the fights, always having those issues to this day where even the Errol Spence victory is compromised due to Errol Spence's health and where he was at, that they won't even give him that credibility, right? So I, as a fan of Terrence Crawford, is like, damn, this opportunity for the Canelo Alvarez fight is something I don't want him to miss out on. So I understand and I empathize with HLD's position on this topic. But bringing it full circle back to say that Boots doesn't have to fight Teofimo. Teofimo hasn't earned a title at 147. Teofimo hasn't beaten other fighters in the division. Boots is arguably the best 147-pounder in the division, the only unified lineal champion in the division. His legacy will not take a turn for the worse for not fighting a Teofimo Lopez. The person who has something to benefit in that fight more than anybody is Teofimo, right? And that's cool. But Boots can take his career into consideration and not care about whether or not Teofimo wants to call him out and say he's a bitch, whether or not there's pride involved. There's none of that. It's about what's best for Boots right now in a division to where he doesn't have long in the division, right? There's an argument out there to say that Boots' presence at 147 pounds is on the clock, that his ability to cut that weight and continue to compete at 147 pounds has an expiration date on it before it becomes something that's not good for his health, his career, that is a chance that his punch, his ability to absorb shots and to cut that weight in a good way that leaves him strong is withering away. It's weathering away. So his next move at 147 has got to be his best move. Money, I understand, is something that a lot of fans have become accustomed to being the most important thing for a lot of these fighters. But like I said earlier, when it comes to the conversation about Gervonta Boots Ennis, he happens to be what I call an old fighter. Legacy is more important to him than money. Money is important, but if there's an order of importance, if there's a triage being made, his thing is the legacy, then the money. So Boots may very well be entertaining the opportunity at fighting a Brian Norman Jr. to become a 3-belt unified champion in a division and still make a decent amount of money, but more importantly for him, do something for his legacy and give him the accolades that he wants to get. And then maybe even if he plays it by ear and he fights one fight at a time, he doesn't know what's going to end up manifesting out of the Mario Barrios Manny Pacquiao situation. He may very well get an opportunity if a Mario Barrios wins that fight against Manny Pacquiao. Maybe Mario sees an opportunity to become an undisputed champion and he doesn't want to let it go, being that Boots will have all the belts outside of that WBC belt. Or maybe Manny Pacquiao could win that fight and vice versa, see an opportunity to become an undisputed champion at 46 years old. So Boots can only carry this one fight at a time. He can only deal with one fight at a time on how he's going to approach the way he's going to move with his career. And right now, on that list of things to do that are going to make the biggest difference for the things he came to achieve, Teofimo's low on that list. Teofimo is simply a fight that somebody with a lot of money wants to finance, and Boots can take that offer and make a lot of money. Yes, Teofimo brings accolades that he's built for himself at 135 pounds, at 140 pounds, being the lineal WBO champion, beating a Josh Taylor, who was the undisputed champion, who was never beaten until Teo beat him, right? Or, you know, bringing up the fact that he beat a Vasily Lomachenko. Those are great things on Teofimo's resume, but those triangle theories don't mean anything to a Jaron Boots Ennis, who's a 147-pounder, getting ready to be a 154-pounder. Now, if Teofimo would have beat, let's say, Brian Norman before, or if he would have beat a Manny Pacquiao, or beat, you know, somebody in the division that makes a little bit more sense, maybe even a Devin Haney, who knows, maybe that could add a little bit to the legacy thing, satiate that thing that Boots needs satiated, that appetite he needs at 147. But in all reality, from my perspective, Teofimo's not checking those boxes like that to where he becomes the best or the most important fight on the table for Boots. Granted, I understand where you're coming from on one thing that you're saying, though. Right now, at this moment, Brian Norman Jr. is tied up in a fight with Jin Sasaki, without a doubt. Brian Norman Jr. is not on the table in a real way to where a contract can be made or where he's even willing to make a contract with Jaron Boots Ennis. He is not, quote unquote, technically free, right? So who's available right now to make a contract happen with Jaron Boots Ennis? It would seem that the only fighter who's truly available is Teofimo Lopez. But there is some weight in the idea that Brian Norman Jr. and Sr. have communicated that after this fight with Jin Sasaki, they want the Jaron Boots Ennis fight next. So the question is, does Jaron Boots Ennis wait patiently, give it a couple of weeks, 3-4 weeks, whenever this fight is about to happen in Japan, to see what happens, and then get into the conversation of making a contract and taking or sending out offers? Or is the pressure on him right now in real time to make something happen right now? Only Boots knows that. The way Boots is moving, one would argue he doesn't have that pressure. He's okay. He understands. I can wait another month. I've got plenty of opportunity. If it's not Teo, it'll be Brian. If it's not Brian, it'll be Teo. If it ain't Teo, it'll be somebody at in the 154 weight class division. Virgil Ortiz is not in a contract to fight somebody right now. He's, you know, recovering from a surgery he had. So if he's comfortable enough to know that those options are out there for him, then is there real pressure on Jaron Boots Ennis to make a decision right now? I'll tell you this. If there was real pressure in order for him to make a decision right now, Teofimo would be the more logical choice, in my opinion, because he's the one available for it.
I want to know why Teo ducking Devin then. I mean, every time Devin come up in the picture, you never want to fight him. And you even try to bring that crazy article up here that never said nothing but Devin. I mean, Teo ducked Devin. Even though you try to prove it, you was wrong.
That's a great question, bro.
But
that's a great question. If how about this? I love it, Ray. I love it. And this is for HLD. Jaron Boots Ennis is not available because he says he's not available. He's taking himself as an option for Teofimo off the table for now, right? So does Teofimo wait on Jaron Boots Ennis right now, or does he take the fight that's actually on the table, which is Devin Haney, who Turkey has also shown interest in making that fight happen, and Devin has shown interest in making that fight. They have a history. It's a legacy fight. They both were champions at 135, undisputed champions, arguably, even though people would say different for Teo. Some people would. But look, outside of that, they both have that history and that storyline behind them. Why is Tio officially ducking Devin Haney by not entertaining that fight? Being that Jaron Boots Ennis is in this freeze space right now. He's in this spot of staying still to where he's waiting out certain things that happen before he takes his next opportunity. Is Teofimo Lopez ducking Devin Haney right now? It is what it is.
Oh, my bad. It was quiet for a second, Claire. I want to make sure.
Lackluster performance or not, by the way. Guys, 44 people in the building. Salute to everybody who's in the building.
What?
Thank you for
Hold on. What?
Hold on. Wait. Don't just cut off what I'm about to say.
No,
shout out to everybody who's in the building right now. 44 people in the building, 45 people in the building. Please remember to hit that like button. Take a moment to go ahead and do that. Very important for the algorithm of this channel. I'm learning as I move ahead. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and take an opportunity to go ahead and do that as well. Go ahead, Ray. I think you're going to react to the never mentioned.
No, I already did. I reacted. My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just thought what do you call it? Diabolical. Holy. What do you mean?
HLD, we might not know of it, right? Like maybe Turkey hasn't made an official offer yet, but I don't know if he has or he hasn't, but without a doubt, outside of how vocal Turkey's been about wanting Teofimo versus Jaron Boots Ennis, there is an understanding out there that Turkey has been in communication with Devin Haney's team and Teofimo's team and trying to coordinate something and get some sort of understanding agreement of a fight happening, even if not now, at some point. That was part of the idea of Devin Haney, Teofimo, and Ryan Garcia signing to Turkey Alalshikh. So the fight is very possible. I think without a doubt, Turkey's very interested in the fight. Does he want that more than he wants the Jaron Boots Ennis fight? I don't know. I'll tell you this, though. I believe if the Jaron Boots Ennis fight isn't the one on the table, then Turkey naturally is very interested in the fight happening between Teofimo and Devin Haney. I think that's what source of what? There was an understanding that Teofimo was signed with that 3-fight deal to Ring Magazine to be there to fight Jaron Boots Ennis and as well as fight the winner between Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia in their rematch. That was understood. It is what it is. I know you're going to want to hang your hat on the facts and the sources, but there's an understanding. It's very similar to Gervonta Tank Davis taking that knee, right? People want to refer to rules and show me where he's not allowed to take the knee, show me where it said, and it was hard. It was hard to find that documentation that addressed it that way, but we couldn't overstand the understanding of the rules that the knee was him being down. And there's an overstanding that we shouldn't overstand the understanding that Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia, and Devin Haney were signed to 3-fight deals and put on the same card with the idea and understanding that at some point down the line, each one of these guys were going to fight each other. From my point of view, you know what I mean? We can get technical with it and turn it into, we don't have no proof. He never actually went out there and said, I want you guys to fight next. And we could do that. And you'd be legitimate in an argument based off of facts being on the table. But I think there's an there's an undervalue or estimation of how powerful understanding is in conversations, that things that aren't necessarily documented word for word the way we want them documented don't mean they don't exist in the capacity that they exist in.
I mean, Bill did an interview saying that they was reaching out to Teofimo. They should make the fight happen. And they call Tio out. Tio seems to be calling Boots out. They're reaching out to Boots. I mean, the scenarios are very clear of what's going on. It's even across the board is what we're saying. And I think you're looking to ignore certain things for Tio fighting Devin to acknowledge certain things that Tio is doing to Boots. And it's the same thing, no matter which way you wash that pillow, it's the same shit. So get on the job, bro, and understand what it is.
Let me add some perspective to what HLD is saying here. Mm-hmm. And like I said already, I knew you was going to say that, HLD. And yes, except for one part of what you said, officially. And why is officially in the air? officially is in the air because Jaron Boots Ennis is not a Turkey fighter. He's not a Ring Magazine fighter. Haven't we learned with how the Virgil Ortiz negotiation went that Boots is not subject to what Turkey wants, that he's not signed paperwork or he's not documented or have any obligation to do what Turkey says, that Boots will always stand on his own square to say that first things first, legacy, after that, everything else can be on the table? Is Teofimo signed with a deal with Turkey Alalshikh, and is Devin Haney signed in a deal with Turkey Alalshikh? So in all reality, who can officially make something happen between Jaron Boots and anybody without Jaron Boots saying yes or no to it? Turkey doesn't have that power. So whatever Turkey wants to get done doesn't mean it's going to happen with fighters who are not under his banner. Yes or no? Yes or no? My good brother, it is what it is. It is what it is. Oh, there's another thing. So that's going to be interesting. Shout out to my guy HLD, who's never scared to bring the facts, even if it throws shots at an argument. By the way, the WBO has ordered Devin Haney to become Teofimo's mandatory at 140, but ran to fight Washed Regis. What happened to the meeting with Bob? Case closed.
Time out. Didn't we talk about this? Didn't you bring up paperwork that declined everything that this? You keep trying to recycle this. It's not true. HLD, this never happened. No one's seen this document that you said. You tried to bring it from another platform. I heard you tell the platform, yeah, I brought it over there, and yeah, it got blown away. It's fake news. Okay, keep it real. Devin Haney and Bill Haney offered to fight. This man said $20 million, clearly on video. So there's a difference between video and what's said behind the scenes that no one else heard but you, right? The video said, "I want $20 million to fight your son." That's what his dad said, right? Then we get out there in front, and what happens when Tio talks about, "Oh, Devin Haney ain't worth my time," blah 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 blah, right? He never said Devin Haney was offered a fight till later. And when he said, ask Bob what happened, Devin said, no, let's ask Bob what happened. Why didn't you accept the fight when Turkey offered you to fight? When Turkey offered you to fight before, why didn't y'all accept the fight? Why did y'all wait till it was on terms with Bob to try to push the fight when you knew I was signing Turkey to fight another fight at that time? Oh, cat got your tongue, because you know what? You're pushing one side of the narrative and you're not saying the whole story. Selective reading, my friend, selective reading. Keep it real. Understand that video evidence is better than your, whatever you want to call it, per se of, there was a document saying that they offered him a fight for the WBO. No, they did not. They offered him to fight with Barbosa for the WBO championship. Tio came out of retirement to try to claim his belt, and there was never an offer for Tio and Devin. Never. That's a fact.
Yeah. It is what it is, right? There can be arguments on either side of the field, right? At the end of the day, the fighters are going to do what's best for them. Jaron Boots Ennis is going to do what's best for him, and clearly Tio, is going to do what's best for him. There's an argument there for Devin and Tio to be the more realistic fight, the actual fight that's on the table for Teofimo right there, and that Jaron Boots Ennis isn't the fight on the table. And as far as Eddie Hearn parading Boots around, no, bro. You know what I mean? I think that's something that we always do, right? We always sit there and try to take it as, I'm going to look for what HLD said right here. One second. Where are you at, HL?
Already over.
Right here.
Oh, well, you got it.
Right. Okay. It says this is an Eddie Hearn and Turkey partnership. No, it is not. It is not an Eddie Hearn and Turkey partnership. It's just not, right? When Eddie Hearn's fighters fight with Turkey, there's a partnership there. But Eddie Hearn's matchroom business is not a partnership with Turkey Alalshikh. And Jaron Boots Ennis is not a Turkey Alalshikh fighter. It's a fighter that Turkey Alalshikh has interest in making fights with. The same way he tried to make a fight with David Benavidez and Caleb Smith. The same way he tried to make a fight with Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Boots Ennis. Virgil Ortiz is not a Turkey fighter. He's a golden boy fighter. When they do business, they do business. But when they're not doing business, they have nothing to do with each other. Just because it looks like aesthetically that Eddie Hearn is doing a lot of business with Turkey doesn't mean that Boots is held to any kind of obligation to do something for Turkey. And clearly, by the way, because even when Turkey tried to promote the fight between Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Boots Ennis, we saw immediately that Jaron Boots Ennis was like, yo, bro, I never said yes to that. I'm not doing that right now. I'm still weighing out my options. I'm trying to see if I can become unified. And that became the conversation. Turkey was just overzealous and oversold the fight before the actual documentation was going to be made, because he probably just didn't see what Jaron Boots Ennis wanting to happen at 147 happening. And probably at a point in time, I could even see Jaron Boots Ennis not think it's going to happen and saying, listen, if this is really off the table, then yeah, I have no problem making that happen. But there's no obligation for Jaron Boots Ennis to move in any game plan or planning of matchmaking that Turkey Alalshikh wants done. It is what it is. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And if anything, put the pressure on Eddie Hearn. If you feel like that didn't work out the right way, right? I'll let Eddie Hearn catch the belt, the you know what I mean, the whooping, the blame for not communicating more clearer or not, you know, maybe delivering on what he said he would deliver to Turkey or to us as fans. But Jaron Boots Ennis is not a Ring Magazine or Riyadh season fighter. It is what it is.
Yep.
It is what it is, man. So look, let's continue the conversation. HLD taking over my show.
Yes,
taking over my show, bro. HLD taking it over. We appreciate you, but hopefully you tap into this next topic. I am interested in how does the David Benavidez, Mauricio Suleiman, Samson Leakowitz, how is that decision to move the way they decided to move aging at this point in the game? Did you see the interview, by the way, with David Benavidez?
Yeah, absolutely.
What'd you think of the interview?
I thought there was a lot of confusion coming out of Benavidez. I think he said, or contradiction. Let's use the word contradiction, not confusion. Coming out of Benavidez, I think he made other statements at different times that he clearly changed some of them. I think he also stood on his grounds, and he keeps continuing to say that, you know, he had the opportunity to fight Canelo, and Canelo wasn't there for him, so he kept ducking him. He threw that under the bus. Not ever saying that he voluntarily pushed his mandatory. Where I think you said you had a conversation with Senior. He said that they did push for the mandatory at one point, but they just didn't accept it, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Benavidez has been him saying that he was willing to do certain things in the fight for Turkey and this and that. He knew the fight was going to be one way. If it went Bivol's way, he will wait for the rematch for the trilogy and then accept the fight, and then backing down off of that, saying he took his opportunity because, you know, they promised him a fight and he don't want to fight in Saudi, and he can make his own money. I mean, it sounds all like somebody's whispering in his ear to me, because it all changed. That was a whole different attitude from what he had prior to the fight with David Morrell, when he was in the David Morrell fight. So it is what it is, brother. Like, I don't know. I think it's just, like I said, just a lot of walking contradictions from interview to interview and things of that nature. You mean he don't mean the takeover? He means was it the showman?
Nah, he's a takeover, just like his fighter, man. He can't help it. It's in their blood. You know what I mean? He's a takeover.
No, he's a showman.
Oh, the showman. It is what it is.
Alias, yeah, the takeover is done. He got washed up. He got beat up by 3 guys in a row.
Well, look, man, he took over. He took over the promotion and the spotlight at the press conferences and everything. He was
a showman. He was showing them how it's done. I'll give him that. He was definitely a showman.
Salute to the boxing source, man. Salute to the boxing source in the building. Salute to Anton Ziegler in the building. Snoopy Mac in the building. Salute to you, King. Rick Timms. I see you, King. Desi Sanchez, what's good with you, fam? Salute.
Much respect to HLD, Clay. I like the guy. Funny.
Yeah, I gotta pay this damn turnpike thing. They keep hitting me up, and I keep forgetting to pay these dudes. Yeah, so I agree with you. You know what I mean? I think David Benavidez I think it's interesting to watch it, because I wonder and I question how well is it aging? You know what I mean? I said it already, but how well is that aging, right? And I'm about to put the link out there for people to come up on the panel. If they want to come up here, it's all good. We're pretty much through it all. I do still want to talk a little bit about the Schofield Tevin Farmer fight as well, a little bit, tap into that a little bit. Tomorrow we'll get into the actual
the hit list
card coming up this weekend.
I don't want to talk about the hit list, by the way. That's not a hit
list.
list.
No, I want to talk about that too as well. But Jamal Charlo, Caleb Plant, Sabril Matias, you know what I'm saying? We got some fights coming up that I also want to talk about. We could do that tomorrow though.
Yes,
you know what I mean? We got some really important fights coming up, so I want to see that as well. Hold on, let me put this up here quick. There is the link if guys want to come up and build. It is what it is. Yeah, but with the David Benavidez situation, it's going to be interesting to watch it pan out because I think there's a direction that this can go into where I think it's going to be potentially a big mistake for David Benavidez, and that is him being forced into going up to that cruiserweight division and fight Zurdo Ramirez. I think that there's potentially issues from that happening if that did happen.
Is he really being forced though? Isn't that probably where his natural division should be? Because I mean, David Benavidez really, we already know him to be walking around in his own mind upwards of 220, 230 anyway. So I think that in itself means that he's probably better off where he is. I did have a question for HLD, which I know he'll pop up, but I'll wait. It's not important. It can wait on the back end of stuff. You know what I mean? There's no disrespect either. It's just a simple question because I think he'll agree on this one, hopefully. But anyway, salute to the panel. What's up, Coach Eddie, Antoine Ziegler? I don't know what you was agreeing with, but I disagree.
Off rip, we just disagree.
Yeah, no, I seen it. He was agreeing with HLD. I was just messing with him.
Okay.
Yeah, I was definitely agreeing with him.
Yeah, but
hold on. I don't know, man.
Wait, before we go any deeper, let me just close out this one part of it because I do want to. Because I think we're getting ready to go right into the Teofimo Gervonta Boots Ennis conversation, which is awesome. But as far as the David Benavidez situation is concerned, forced out of division. The reason I say that is because if the fights he wants at 175 aren't there, then he's already made it clear with his father what he wants to go do in the cruiserweight division. So in all reality, if the fights are there, I feel like David Benavidez should stay in the light heavyweight division if that's where he plans on competing. If he plans on becoming undisputed, challenging for unification fights and want to make these big fights, don't go to a cruiserweight division. Don't play the game. Don't go gain 25 pounds, compete up there, and then cut weight to come back to 175 because you still want to compete in the light heavyweight division. I think that's a dangerous thing, something he shouldn't have had to do. And like I said, is it aging well when you saw there was a route that Turkey wanted to put you in that would have taken care of all those things that you wanted to get done? It is what it is. But shout out to also shout out to the panel, Coach Eddie, Anton Ziegler. What's good with you guys? Anton, I think you were about to build on something. What's on your mind?
No, Coach Eddie can go first. Let me back into this building real quick, Clay.
I got you. Yeah, pay attention. Go ahead, Coach.
What's up? What's going on? Hey, what's going on? Salute, brother. Yo, man, it's a lot to unpack today. I don't even know where I want to start at, man.
Take your time. Get to it all.
Man, for sure. I think with the David situation, man, to me, when dudes do like that, when he move like how he moved, to me, it kind of seemed like he really didn't want to fight, man. You know what I'm saying? Because you waited for years and years on Canelo. You beat up a bunch of small guys. You brought them up 54, 60, kind of some guys that passed their prime or whatever. You had no problem. Wanted to fight Canelo, then all of a sudden, you get to 75. Now you become impatient. You just got there, and now you become super impatient. You basically you beat a guy that was basically in your same weight class, which David Morrell. Both you guys moved up, so you really don't have a lot of work there at 175, and you want to keep it 100. You fought Vosnik, a guy who kind of on the tail end of his career, also decent fighter, but not in his prime. You brought Morrell up, and now all of a sudden, I think he just seen an opportunity to get a WBC belt, which is WBC at its finest. The corruption is crazy. Jamal Charlo get to hold on to a belt for 2.5 years, and then Bivol gets stripped almost immediately, and it's just too much inconsistency with the WBC. Canelo did whatever he wanted to do, as far as with the WBC, the mandatories. It was all over the place, no consistency at all. far as moving up the cruiserweight, it's like it's a one-off because he's not going to campaign there because he got to fight this guy by the name of John Apataya. I think David Benavidez goes to sleep if he fights him. He's going to bed if he gets in there with Ja. Ain't no ifs, ands, buts about it. All his advantages are gone at cruiserweight. He's no longer a monster at the cruiserweight division. He's not that guy, man. T.O., cloud chasing as usual, running his mouth. Ain't gonna fight nobody. Like I say, it's plenty of smoke at 140, but you calling out these guys that are in another weight class where you really have no intentions on fighting. He don't want to fight Boots. He's just running his mouth. He can fight Gary. He got other champions at 140 he can fight with. You know, so T.O.'s up to his usual antics again, you know what I'm saying? This dude is really, really a clown. You know, and I love watching people whoop on him. When he first came out, I was a fan. But now it's got to the point now where he's almost enjoyable watching him get lumped up, looking like Kermit the Frog every time he have a fight because both his freaking eyebrows always swell up. His face does not hold up to punishment at all. Boots is going to make that dude look like the Elephant Man. And that would be enjoyable to watch. He's going to get punished. You already got that bird beak already been broken several times. You can't miss that big old gonzo hunker that he has. And then it coming to frog eyes that he has. Man, T.O. the freaking clown, man. I love watching that dude get beat up, man. I'm going to land there.
Woo! Jesus. Anyway, salute to the other people on the panel. We definitely got HLD in the building, so it's going to be a very interesting panel today. And we've got the boxing source in the building as well. Salute to the boxing source. How are you gentlemen doing this morning?
Salute. What's going on, Claimer? What's going on? Man, I'm liking this debate, man. There's a lot of heat.
I know. I know not to be a lot of heat. I already know not to be a lot of heat. Trust me. One topic at a time.
Real quick, HLD. I know we talked about this before. Now, we had the whole Usher and Angelone conversation, right? Seeing the performance of Brian in that last fight, right? Being able to see his punches come in left and right from the first round to the end. Do you think that there was an opportunity that he did use Usher now, or there was some type of performance?
No, not when it comes to Usher. You got to be a damn fool to think that snake oil does anything. No, you got to be a damn fool. I know that for a fact. I'm telling you for a fact.
I know you talked about it. You talked about the medicine and stuff. But what I'm saying is when you talk about them finding Angelone as well.
No, Angelone, what they found when they first came with a higher screen level of that, they had to then find out if it was synthetic or if it was naturally built. And they found out that it was just his own natural body's Angelone. That came out. So it had nothing to do with synthetic use of Angelone. So
okay. All right.
Now, what I can tell you about what we saw in his performance on that day, this is what happens when you send a fighter into therapy and taking bipolar medication. You can't civilize a fighter, man. Once you civilize a fighter, you kill that dog in him. And I think that's exactly what happened to this young man. We saw the behavior, man. We saw how he was trained. He looked like Mike Tyson when he's on shrooms. Like, Mike Tyson's like a puppy now, right? So that's what we saw out of this kid. And I know that he was going crazy, and so he's gonna have to decide what does he want to do, because you cannot be in therapy and taking these mental medications and expect to go out there and fight like a dog, because that ain't happening. And you cannot find your warrior in a therapy session. You got to get off the meds and you got to be a killer. It's a brutal sport. I know we care about the humanity of a person, but this is boxing.
Did you go to any of the weigh-ins or anything publicly?
No.
Okay. I know a few people that did, and they were saying that Ryan definitely had the whole shape, everything was just different, like everything. So I was just asking on your point and your take on that, but I respect it. I mean, you sticking to your guns, so I ain't mad at you.
No, it is what it is, man. I was definitely there, and I felt like, and even in the room, there was definitely an understanding in the room, a big understanding. People were whispering, and there was a very clear elephant in the room, which is, damn, why Ryan don't look the way he looked. Everybody was saying, everybody from the Jim Lampleys to everybody was whispering, and what did Jay-Z say? Whispering and pispering And like, yeah, bro, he looked different without a doubt. I mean, it is
Ray,
what it is.
I hope you made some money, Ray, because me and you discussed on this platform that Rolly was a live dog. I put my bet in. I hope you made some money, man.
Yeah, I
Once
missed
I
it. I actually had
seen,
to parlay.
yeah,
Missed it, though.
I just took at the beginning of the fight. Rolly was like a plus. I want to say like 1,800. It was something crazy. So I wasn't sure then. After the second round, when Rolly dropped Ryan, I got it at like plus 900, and I just put $100 on it. And I stepped away from the fight. I had something to do. I came back, checked my FanDuel. That shit was green. I was like,
Yeah,
Congratulations.
baby. Yeah, baby.
Now,
but
Rolly, baby.
now share some of the wealth with your boy. You know what I mean?
Shoot a 50
I-
piece
I-
over here, man. Give me a
No,
steak.
I'm good. I'm good. Listen, I just know what type of fighter Ryan is, and a lot of people doesn't recognize that the guy has no footwork, no jab.
never
He's
did.
terrible. He's a terrible defender, and all he does is set up range for his left hook. And unfortunately, if you don't see that, you're a fan. If you do see that, you're a boxing fan. And I think Devin got caught up in his own magic of fighting Regis, and he thought that he was going to go in there and stomp on on Ryan, and Ryan showed him differently. So regardless of the Osterine or not, I think Devin fought the wrong fight. And I think if Devin fought the fight he was knowing the fight, he watches Ryan. He
So
I
the-
never
so-
thought
so
that
the-
Devin
It's
had
not
a
the
great
fight he fought Jose
defense.
Ramirez, right? That's not the fight we're talking about when we say fight.
No.
No, man, that bro, I'm never paying a damn cent to see that full fight again.
He got to earn it. He got to earn it back. He got
I
to earn
never
it.
thought that Devin had great upper. I think Devin defense was great because Devin has such great feet. So when his feet wasn't really that great in the Ryan fight, the other part, like Shakur defense is pretty much, that Philly shell, and he do a little bit of the shoulder roll as well.
His head
But he
movement.
also has good feet. Devin head move. That's what I was trying to get to. I couldn't think of the word. Devin head movement was never really,
Like
like on
top level.
elite level to me. It was
Yeah.
it was okay, but his feet was so good, and he got such long arms. He was able to get away with certain things in certain
Well, let's not
fights.
forget. I mean, Devin Haney was outboxing Ryan for a few rounds,
Absolutely,
bro.
Yeah, good
absolutely,
number.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
then it comes down to it was just who to me it was just came down to who's the better fighter, not boxing
He
technique.
couldn't get out of the way of the left hook. That's what I'm saying. The head movement.
Ryan was too much for him. Period, and that's it. He was his kryptonite, and they proved that since the amateurs. So I mean, it is what it is. Regardless how anybody want to look at that, it's just that for that fight, Ryan is his kryptonite, and that's that.
Go ahead, Clay.
Until he proves difference. Hold on. I also want to bring the boxing source in here. How you doing, family? How you doing?
Yo, chilling, man.
Doing good, man. I want to give you an opportunity to tap in. I know we got an event. I know you're probably gonna be way deep tapping into that Keyshawn David Shakur Stevenson situation. I definitely am interested in getting a lot of perspective on Keyshawn's latest and greatest and where his mind is at. I'm interested in the panel's opinion on where is Keyshawn's mind at. Are we making more to do out of what he said on his Twitter and the things he said in the interviews, little things he said? Are we making more to do with it, or is Keyshawn in a position right now to where he's starting to consider spreading his wings a little bit, and he might understand that this, respect thing he got going on with Shakur Stevenson may have a limit to it. Like, I can respect you, but to a certain point and degree, is Keyshawn getting to the reality of the situation that there can only be one?
Well, I mean, he's built up his thing there with his channel as far as like his route to this particular fight, but you've seen, like I was mentioning over the past couple months, that Top Rank has really done a lot to invest into Keyshawn Davis over the past year, and then coming in for him winning the WBO title, and now they could see that he could potentially be one of those guys that they could really build around or get behind. So like here with this upcoming fight against De Los Santos, they're like saying, okay, we're gonna have another sold out crowd in Norfolk. And then after that, they said, hey, maybe we could try to get him in a pivotal fight, maybe against Andy Cruz. We'll see, because Andy Cruz fights the following week. Or, maybe get something with one of the big fights with Shakur or even Tank. But he kind of like sees that he has the charisma, he has the fighting style where he could really be one of those guys to say that, hey, I could be the one here in this particular division.
You think the cost might be? You think it's inevitable that these guys are going to have to come to an understanding about what it looks like for them to coexist in the same weight class division? Do you think it's getting to that point where there has to be an understanding on how we're going to deal with this outside of just declaring to the space we're never going to fight each other?
Yeah, it's going to get to that boiling point because the fans are going to continue to demand it, and they're going to really push for it. Regardless if it's Tank and Shakur and Keyshawn and Tank, or whatever it is, they're going to push for it. Like the whole thing with Shakur and Keyshawn, with that brother type stuff, like for me, I just felt like that was, kind of crazy because, hey, there's been brothers, quote unquote, in boxing, and they still fought each other. Because at the end of the day, it's about money. So if the money's right, yeah, you're going to fight each other. I'm like, why not? You want to go ahead and make some money with your brother, right? So why not go ahead and step in the ring? But now with the recent comments there from Keyshawn Davis, it's like maybe it's getting some people to say, hey, maybe we have a possibility that those two could step in the ring here in the future. So we'll see.
I agree with them. It's all about money. Keep that in mind, guys. It's all about money.
Now,
as far as this, whatever they got going on, bro, they're playing everybody with that. You guys believe that bullshit strife between those guys? They're from the same camp. They're brotherhoods for real. They hang out with each other. This is all playing games for the media. They're never gonna fight each other. I don't believe that one bit. I mean,
I don't have much confidence either, but I'm like, why? Yeah, like, come on, this money.
Promoting ain't just Keyshawn's got a fight coming up, so whatever it takes to get your name in a buzz, that's what we're gonna do. That's how the business works. It's no different than WWE at times.
So HL, let me ask you. Okay, play the game. Do this. You got a fight coming up, but does this age well? If this doesn't manifest into something, does this hurt them in the long run? Right? Like, can they continue to move with this energy that they're going to be in the same weight class divisions, occupy titles in the same weight class division, but refuse to fight each other? And then from time to time say something to kind of tease the boxing space as far as the potential of them fighting each other. Is that the game they're going to keep playing? And how's that going to age well when it's all said and done?
Let me ask you, how has that game played well for Tank?
Tank and what? Floyd?
Tank with everybody, pretending you're gonna fight anybody and do anything and whatever, and you never done it. You're gonna fight Lomachenko 7 years later. Now that he's retired, I want to fight him, but we still don't got the fight. It's worked well for Tank, right? Business wise, it's worked well for Tank. Not legacy wise, but it's worked well for him. So when it comes down to it, this is just about making a buzz. Like you were just about to say, like when Tank about to have a fight, having a strike with Floyd and blah blah blah, and all this stuff. And I just caught on to that what you meant with that. But yeah, I mean, this is part of business, bro. Who sent when he was fighting Baranchek? It was his own team that sent himself that fruit care package, bro. They created that buzz because there was no buzz for that fight. When Sandy Ryan and Michaela, all that BS that was going on, who hit it with the paintball? That was Top Rank. You're in New York City, bro. There's cameras everywhere. You wanted to see who did it, you will know. I promise you. So this is just WWE stuff. It's entertainment on the backside to bring some buzz to a fight.
HLD, I can't really say much about it, but I had like an idea of who could have potentially been behind some of that stuff. But
let's leave it. Hold on, let's leave it there.
But far as you guys on the panel, including the hosts, I wanted to ask y'all something. Do we so someone gets a microphone in their face, right? And we get call outs and we get all of this talking. To y'all, does that
might
really
be a
mean
bad connection or something?
Hold on, let me move around. Does that mean when y'all see stuff like that, do y'all really take that as a legitimate call out? Like they really want to fight? How do y'all view that?
You have to have money behind the table. If there's no money to make a fight, You could call out King Kong, and if nobody's willing to pay for that fight, promoter-wise, there's no fight. It's as simple as that.
I think
all right, hold on 1 second before we scatter all over the place, because as far as Anton's question is, I don't know. It's case by case for me. You know what I mean? At times I see it and I believe it, and at times I see the way HLD does, where I see the theatrics of it. It's a case by case situation. Coach Eddie,
like Tio,
right? Exactly.
Okay,
case by case.
There's real money behind the table.
Yeah, Coach Eddie, I want to ask Coach Eddie to tap in a little bit on this whole entire Keyshawn Davis, Shakur Stevenson situation. So, you know, HLD seems to believe that this is a play on the fan base. This is the theatrics. This is how we promote a fighter, promote fights, promote marketing strategy, as he would argue it to be. Where are you at as far as what you're seeing happening with what Keyshawn's done this week, and how is this going to age this situation that seems to me not to be ending no time soon, because these guys are going to continue to occupy the same space. I think they're both going to continue to compete at a high level. They're going to hold titles in similar divisions. What does this look like in the future? Where are you at with it at this point?
I think it's a distraction. I think if they're not going to fight each other, I think they should stay out of the weeds, because Keyshawn has a fight coming up against De Los Santos, and something tells me that this is going to be a hard fight. I think the way, and I always said this, the way Keyshawn fights and the way De Los Santos fight, I think it's going to mesh well, and I think it's going to be a dangerous fight. And I think he's going to get. He better be on his game. Keyshawn has a tendency to throw wide punches. He's kind of gangly with his punches. He opens up a lot, and there are opportunities there. So he has very long arms. But as far like the Shakur situation, I think it's an unnecessary distraction, because me personally, I think they should fight. I don't see why. I mean, why not? I mean, if other words, if y'all guys that fought in the gym for free and not get paid for it, why not just put it on TV and get paid for it? Y'all got countless rounds of beating up on each other in the gym. At least now you get paid for it. So what's the difference? If is it an ego thing or something? I think it's more Shakur doesn't want to fight than Keyshawn, because I think Shakur has such an inflated ego of himself that if Shakur beats him, it's almost like you getting beat up by your little brother. You know, if that makes sense right there. He doesn't want to run that risk, because he know that Keyshawn, I mean, when you spar with somebody, you're very familiar with that person. And the fight sometimes can play out like the sparring, so we never know how it can go. But, I mean, I think they should fight each other at the end of the day. It's no big deal. It's nothing personal. It's business, especially if the fans want to see it. If the fans want to see it, and if it makes dollars, it makes sense. You know, hey, we can be friends afterwards. We can go out to eat, you know, and all this stuff. We can even talk about doing a rematch if it was a good fight. But I think right now it's a distraction. And, you know, when these fighters get distracted, they have a tendency to slip up, because De Los Santos, he's coming off with kind of a stinking performance also with the Shakur thing. He wants to put that behind him also. He wants to get back to being that dangerous guy. And he's going to try to prove something against Keyshawn. He's going to try to knock Keyshawn out. Trust me. He's going to go after him. So he better be careful. He better be on his game.
I agree with him 100% on this fight with De Los Santos. Look, man, everybody's buzzed out because Keyshawn been knocking out all these old wash pigeons, bro. But he's fighting against a guy who's about his equal of his age, probably equally as athletic, probably even stronger. So I really believe that this could be a test fight, depending on what De Los Santos we get, because the man has been out for 2 years, and we all know about his health issues from his shoulder, blood clot. So it's in a way it could be a cherry pick and a perfect fight, because how does a man, again, coming off a loss, 2 year not fighting, getting a title shot? Well, because that's the perfect type of fight for Keyshawn Davis. He ain't proven yet. He's not proven. He's good showmanship. He's a lot of charisma, blah, blah, blah. But he ain't shown me nothing, bro. He just beat up the Dollar Tree version of Lomachenko for a championship. And that's it. That's it. All these other, Pedraza, washed old pigeon. Guy hasn't even fought at 135 for 4 years when they made him drain down. His toughest fight, I think, was that Madueño fight. Because the guy wasn't playing with him. He wasn't intimidated by him. He played it rough with him. But I haven't
and
seen nothing
Nair
special.
Albright.
Oh, yeah, Albright.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I think it's more than telling to just say that I think he's filling out the business. Like he's throwing things out there. He's throwing the information out there, saying, "Look, you guys are willing to make." I think they will fight each other eventually. I think it's just to see what the consensus is. So me saying that I'm willing to fight Shakur and or whatever he said. You know what I mean? Like basically him saying what he said is basically saying I'm not willing, ducking the smoke here, and it's not me. Blah 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 blah. Leaving it up to Shakur to respond and say, "Look, hey man, that's what you wanted. It is what it is." It's all business. It could be a possibility. It could just be water in the wind, like just rain. Somebody pissing on your head, calling it rain. We don't know what it is. At the end of the day, we can speculate every single point of it and take it out of context, put it in context, whatever it is. But at some point, these guys will fight each other. They're not going to be left with a choice. Unless they just keep going from division to division as each one moves up and moves away from each other. That's the only way they avoid each other. But I think Coach Eddie had a good point. I think with Shakur's hand situation, it has changed the complexity of this fight with Keyshawn, and Keyshawn actually put his name out there. He got out the way for Shakur when Shakur got to the division, and he wasn't getting the fights. He wasn't being able to put on these fights. So he decided to make a name for himself and show respect. And I think we're now at the as they call it, that turning point where Keyshawn's like, "Look, man, I know I got you. So, if you want to make it happen, let's make it happen." I think Shakur still believes, as Coach Eddie said, I'm the big brother here. Like, nah, it ain't happening. I'm going to have to show you. But remember, Shakur moved into Keyshawn's division. It wasn't Keyshawn that moved to Shakur's. So,
that's where I'm at with it. I'm just gonna be real quick. That's where I'm at with it. If while they're in the same division, you guys gotta fight. Now, if Keyshawn decides to move up, because I do see Keyshawn possibly being able to go as high as 147, given his frame and his height. Shakur might be 135, 140. I feel like that's where he would end his career at. But as long as they're in the same division, they got to fight, or unless you're just holding up belts. So that's where I'm at with it.
Exactly to what he was saying. I was about to say, if you look at the timetable, these guys are not going to fight. Keyshawn will not be at 135 past 2025. He'll be at 140 next year. And so all this, whatever they got these two guys going on, it's not happening. It's not happening. This is just noise. Keep your name relevant. You got a fight coming up. Hey, I'll say this. You got a fight coming up. I'll say that. And that's that. But Keyshawn will not be at 135 past 2025. I'll see him challenging at 140 next year.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as that. Boxing. So I actually want to ask everybody on the panel, though. So HLD, you already communicated and said that Keyshawn just hasn't done enough for you. You still want to see him do some things to be proven to you. And I think there's a legitimate argument there, right? Like with Jose Pedraza, I agree. He hadn't fought 135 in so long. Miguel Madueños was a competitive fight. I thought that was a significant fight for him. The Gustavo Lemos fight kind of, in my opinion, showed the heart and the ability and him being dialed in and all the distractions that came his way. He was able to focus and get through that fight and deal with all the nonsense that came with it, whether it was his sister and his mom and being in a car accident, whether it was Gustavo Lemos coming overweight and dealing with all that energy, or just the overall overwhelming energy of having your first home fight and the marching band behind you. And he was doing interviews as he was walking out. He had a mic in his ear as he was walking out to do his ring entrance, and he showed that there was a professionalism about him, that he can be dialed in and focused and get past all the distractions. And I thought with the Dennis Berinchenko fight, he showed a lot about a lot of that as well in that fight. And what he showed was, if you're not supposed to be in the ring, I don't care what your accolades are, how nice you are, I'm not going to let that overshadow the fact that I'm just better than you. And you're going to get wasted and washed more than a Miguel Madueño fight, a guy who didn't have a belt. You're going to get disrespected, and you're going to have to show me who you are. And you're going to get stopped if you're not supposed to be in the ring with me. So I'm loving what I'm seeing from Keyshawn Davis. But that being said, though, on this fight right now with Edwin De Los Santos, there'll be arguments at the end of the fight. There'll be people who said he stayed out of the ring too long. There'll be people who said he was arguing. There was rumors about him going up to 140 and fighting a Frank Martin, and that now he's, cutting weight and he shouldn't be at 135. There'll be all these different things that come out at the end of this fight, assuming that Keyshawn Davis wins this fight. But I want to ask the panel, on the back end of a victory against Edwin De Los Santos, has Keyshawn Davis arrived? Is this checking some of the boxes for you, or is this still not going to be enough? I want to start with HLD, being that he's the one who kind of made the argument, and then we can move through the bottom, go to the boxing source, then Coach Eddie, then we can end it with Anton, and then I'm interested, of course, in what my co-host thinks about the topic as well. HO, what do you think about what I said?
I think you're right on it. The thing is, we got so many damn belts, you know what I mean? And it's okay, he's a champion. But he's really what you would call in the old days, just a guy really claiming his spot to go get the champion. Because these fighters, they're good step-up fights to build. But I don't think it's championship worthy fight. They're not. None of these guys are that he's fought are real dudes, bro. None of them are. So I think what they're doing a great, for what we are in the market today for the business. Kid has done a phenomenal job marketing himself, right? You can't none of that. You can't take nothing on the business aspect away of what he's done for himself to also gain these casuals. He's gaining casuals into this fight because he's got that charisma, and I get that. But when it comes just to in the ring, I'm not impressed just yet. I know the kid's got heart, he's got punch power, but what can you do with a real killer? I don't know that.
Does Edwin De Los Santos check the boxes as far as a real killer is concerned on the back end of stopping Edwin De Los Santos?
No, because of where we're at with De Los Santos. If De Los Santos would have came back from this 2-year layoff and would have given us 1 or 2 fights where we see, okay, ring rust off, you ready, you're healthy, you took these guys out, all right, now let's see. But right now, there's a lot of what ifs. We don't know what De Los Santos we're getting. I don't know. With all these blood clot issues, shoulder issues, coming off a loss. Again, like I said, how does a guy get a championship fight coming off a loss? There's so many ifs. I just see this as a cherry pick. And Keyshawn better not under-deliver. Because if he does, that says it all for me. You can't even beat a dude up coming off what he's coming into the fight with. It says a lot for me. That's all I gotta say. So I expect Keyshawn, if he's that guy like everybody hopefully thinks he is, like you said, take out the trash.
Wow. Shout out to Adel Choice in the building, putting that $5 color in the chat. Guys, don't be scared to put some color in the chat, man. Support the channel. Says I'm a casual. Salam, y'all lit. Salam King says if we're not talking about stats and X's and O's in the ring, we all become the Real Housewives of fighters.
Yeah, who's up first?
Yeah.
Clam coming over. Watch out.
Oh, yeah, if we don't got the numbers, we're not backing up. We're not backing up our arguments with actual facts and data and X and O's, and we're just all celebrating our favorite fighters. I think we are all guilty of that. I know I'm guilty of doing that. Boxing source. So where are you at on the Keyshawn Davis conversation? You know what I mean? We see HLD basically, and I consider HLD a hardcore boxing fan. He gets deeper into the space, but
he's a PhD mathematician.
There are arguments out there. There are arguments out there that HLD's putting out there that I think are legitimate. I think that Edwin De Los Santos is coming off of injuries with blood clot in his arm and coming off of a loss. And I think it is kind of crazy that he's getting a championship fight. It's becoming a regular thing in the boxing space that fighters don't need to be in a winning streak of any kind of source to get a shot at the title. But at the same time, I do feel like Edwin De Los Santos is a dangerous fighter, and I think that counts for something. But where are you at with it? Is Keyshawn there already? And if he's not there, does this fight check some boxes that you need checked as far as what you think of Keyshawn in the division?
To that point, in reference to Edwin De Los Santos, this is one thing that I forgot to bring up to the WBO president, Gustavo Olivieri, when I talked with him a couple of weeks ago, because like Edwin De Los Santos, like in a way, shouldn't really be challenging for the WBO title, even through the bylaws, like the rules is some type of loophole or something, because even in that instance, like he's been out of the ring for a very long time. It's been like pretty much 18 months. So with that being said, like in a way, like some would think like he shouldn't be qualified to fight for a WBO title anyway. As far as like Keyshawn Davis is concerned, as I mentioned before, they have a plan for him. They've been carrying that plan. So here in this fight against Edwin De Los Santos, like for me, I expect them to like get him out of there. You know, like y'all say, like you should get him out of there. I say it shouldn't really last longer than 4 rounds against Edwin De Los Santos, regardless of, you know, Edwin's condition at this point. After that, we got to see if they're going to really try to go after these like Andy Cruz's, or maybe even, well, I won't even say like Abdullah Mason, even though he is ranked number 2 in the WBO right now. But I think Keyshawn falls in the division as someone that we gotta see if they could go ahead and prove themselves at 135. Over the previous 3 or 4 years, we've seen a number of top 10 fights within the lightweight division. Now that we see that there are like clear number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s, they ain't really fighting each other, and those within the top 10 aren't necessarily fighting each other like that. So after this fight, we got to see like these guys go after each other. And that's the thing, like some fans kind of see here is when they talk about Tank or Shakur or Keyshawn or whoever it is, that they ain't really pushing to fight these top guys. So now after this particular fight and what happens in July and what happens in August, then there shouldn't be any reason why we shouldn't get a combination of those 3 guys not fighting each other by the end of the year.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Let's move on to Coach Eddie on this one, man. I got you, Anton. Coach, where are you at on the topic of Keyshawn Davis? Has he done enough for you? Does HLD make some good points? Does he still need to be tested? And if he does this fight check the boxes with a dangerous fighter like Edwin De Los Santos jumping in the ring with him?
I think Keyshawn's on the right. He's on the right path. You know, he hasn't, in my opinion, he hasn't made it yet, you know, because I think one of his most challenging fights was the Albright fight. That showed me that was a competitive fight, and Keyshawn got caught with some good shots, so he displayed a decent chin in that fight. I think right now there's a lot of young guys at the 135-pound division that he has to see those guys. You know, you got to take on the Floyd Schofield if he's able to beat Tevin Farmer. You got to fight that kid. You got to fight the Abdullah Masons. You got to fight. Of course, you need to fight Andy Cruz. Matter of fact, you should be beating your chest, calling him out, not the other way around. Go ahead and right that wrong right there, because the guy beat you several times in the amateurs. It's already got a built-in backstory already. It's over there with somebody that y'all can do business with, which is the Zone Network. So that fight makes sense. So this fight right here, the Dos Santos fight, it can be a good barometer. I'm not going to make any excuses for, Edwin being out of the ring a long time, because I still think he's a formidable opponent and still offers a degree of danger. And Keyshawn is going to have to be on his game because, like I said before, I think the De Los Santos is highly motivated because he got blamed also for the Shakur Stevenson fight. Both of them, had to shoulder a lot of that blame for how that fight went. So I think he's going to come out. He's going to try to return to being that puncher, being that guy that was somewhat feared in the division, and try to really make a statement. It was a guy by the name of Darnell Boone. Darnell Boone was kind of like a journeyman guy, but when he fought guys on the top level, he always raised his game. He enjoyed beating gold blue chip prospects. He dropped Andre Ward. I seen him. He dropped Sergey Kovalev. I thought he beat Kovalev right here in Atlanta. And he also, Adonis Stevens, got him too. This is Darnell Boone, a career journeyman. So a lot of times you have to be careful when you overlooking these guys, listening to the fanfare, people, crowning you too early, and us fans crowning you too early, just basically saying there's going to be 2 guys standing at the 35 division, which is Tank, Shakur, and Keyshawn Davis, when there's a lot of smoke there. The Abdullah Masons, like I say, the Tevin Farmers, not even him. I mean, that could be a good test. You got the Raymond Moore Tyler. I think that's how you pronounce his name. So a lot of good guys there that he can prove himself with. So either he's going to have to stay there and fight these guys, or he got to move up. But this is a step in the right direction. I just put it like that.
I got you. I'm rocking with that. So I'm gonna go with Anton, then back to Ray because I wanted to go last. Anton,
Yeah, can y'all
where
hear
you,
me?
yeah, we can hear you. Where you at on this Keyshawn conversation, man? HLD made some good points, man. He made some. I don't know if you heard. Did you hear his
No,
points?
I was still here for that.
Okay, so
I
go
think I
ahead.
missed the boxing. I don't know his name. What's his name?
Boxing
Boxing
source. Yeah.
source.
Yeah, I think I missed his one. But I don't want to sound like, because we all, from our perspectives, I don't want to sound like we shitting on Keyshawn and diminishing his accomplishments, because he has been, they put the people in front of him. So his only job is to go out there and beat the fighters, and he has been doing that. Now there's backstories to every fight. We could talk about Gustavo Limos coming in overweight, probably because he was coming down from fighting Hitchens at 140, and he had to kill himself to make that weight. The same point that he made with Pedraza. Now, I wanted to give him credit for this Santos fight. I really do. But I kind of agree with what HLD said. It kind of looked like a cherry pick. Santos coming off of almost a two-year layoff. We haven't seen him since he fought Shakur Stevenson. So we don't know what kind of shape he's going to be in. We don't know what, his stamina and all, everything that goes into a fight. And to switch a little bit, I kind of view Terrence Crawford in that same issue with Canelo Alvarez. Any type of fights like that is a dangerous fight, especially when another fighter is very active and you're just pretty much chilling. You could be sparring and all that, but it's different when you get in that ring and get under them lights. But I do think that if Keyshawn, to me, would have took the Frank Martin fight, that to me would have been a bigger, I could have, really
even with
gauged
Frank
him
coming off of a
from that
loss.
fight, because Frank came off of a loss, but Frank came off of a loss to a guy that we rank over Keyshawn Davis. Now,
Okay.
if Santos and Shakur fight was more competitive, and then it was like right after that, then yeah, it's just the layoff in between. Even though Frank Martin has been out of the ring now for a while, he's enjoying that damn money. He out here about to fight people at birthday parties and stuff. But I'm just looking at the opponent. Like, Frank Martin is more technically, defensively sound. Probably got some power puncher around Keyshawn.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Santos
Anton.
can crack, so he can't fall. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up. Let's give it a second. I think you're just in an area. You're breaking up bad. Give it a second. Let's just. But I mean, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, yeah. At the end of the day, I understand where you're coming from, man. I think there are things about this fight coming up that people are going to be able to say things about, man. It's interesting, man. Ray, tap in, man. Where you at with it, man?
It's actually funny because I'm still like on the fence of both. I think that it is a great fight. I just think that it's not challenging. I don't know, to say the least. I think you're just getting a name out there, somebody that you can put on your resume, whether you win or lose. It could be a surprising loss, but most likely he's going to win, right? So you're putting a name on your resume that not only Shakur helped build his name, but someone that was literally built up by Jose Venezuela. So now we got a guy on there that you're willing to take on this fight because you know he's a danger, but yet how dangerous is he? He's been in a layoff. I was actually on board with Keyshawn getting the names out there, maybe. And then literally the first name I mentioned was a Frank Martin, who's been out just as long, but I don't feel that Frank Martin has not been in a ring training, such as De Los Santos, having issues with his visa, work visa, and having issues with his blood clot in his arm, or whatever the case may be, moving forward, to even a Gabe Flores, who's right there in the WBO rankings, and even Shakur's nemesis currently, Javier Herrera, who's also supposed to be a strong competitive fighter. He came off a fight. It'd be a good fight for you to have as a strong up-and-coming warrior who wants all the smoke. That's a great opportunity for you to step in and show somebody really what you're about, as opposed to taking on somebody that a lot will see as a handicapped fight. A guy coming off a long layoff that we know is experienced, but he has a good name, so there's a chance that he will win. It's hard to pick whether we want this fight to be legitimate or not. In my opinion, I think it's just a tune-up. I'm not even calling it a championship defense. I think it's a tune-up with an opportunity for an upset, because it's always an opportunity. But I don't see this as a fight that should have been made off the cusp of him not having any De Los Santos and himself not having a tune-up or something that would have been regular. Maybe if he came off maybe 6 months, 7 months, yeah, I can give him that, even with the loss. But him being out for almost 2 years or a year and a half, that's a little bit more questionable to take that fight, especially when you got guys in and out your division. I mean, I don't see Andy Cruz right now. I think Andy Cruz is a good name, but I think that's a fight that needs to develop more. I think Andy Cruz needs to get himself active before we even throw him in the mix with somebody like Keyshawn who's just getting better. If not, then Andy Cruz needs to get him off the list right now, because it's going to be a long day for him. But yeah, I mean, I'm with HLD 70%. But then the other 30%, I'm saying, you know what I mean? It's a name, you know what I mean, to put on your resume, regardless of the situation. I mean, is it possible? No, but it's definitely a name that resonates with the viewer.
Hey, God forbid that Ray gives me, he's backing me up 100%.
It'll never happen, HL. Get it out your damn head.
I'll back up HL.
Out of your damn head.
Pause. You can keep the D. I'll back up HL all day.
People here in the back. Jesus Christ, bro. Hold on. I gotta let some people up here. Hold on. I think the consensus is pretty accurate though on this topic, man. And look, man, I'm a fan of Keyshawn Davis. The eye test for me says that this kid is a generational talent. He hasn't proven it yet. He's still, you know, those opportunities are still going to come out on the table, and he needs to take them. You know, I want to see him fight fighters in their prime. You know what I mean? The asterisk next to all the fights he has is going to get old. You know what I mean? The weight drain, Jose Pedraza, the Gustavo Limos, who got pulled down from 140 after fighting Richard Hitchens. This Edwin De Los Santos coming off of a layover and an injury, and with the blood clots, and, you know, even with the argument that he may even be getting pulled down a little bit, that they anticipated him going to 140. You know, these fights are great. I think they're great as far as developing him, putting him in that position. I think each fight offers its own adversity in it. I think with Dennis Baranchek, you had the mover, the boxer. Miguel Medueno, you had the forward-coming Mexican heavy punching fighter, the strong guy who's going to be physical with you. With Gustavo Limos, you had the adversity of the weight, him coming in overweight and being a bigger boxer potentially that night in the ring. They all got these little points of things you could celebrate him on, but at the same exact time, to be great, we need to see you fight some fighters in their prime. We need to see you beat some guys who we think can beat you, things of that nature, right? It is what it is.
Just to throw something out there real quick.
Got to credit Top Rank matchmaking.
That too.
But also Top Rank is great at developing.
Right.
They're doing that, but they're also good at, like, you know what I mean, these fights are making him better. I think they are upping a little bit more each time in the competition. And I think it's working, but he does need to get to that point.
What I was going to say is I think Limos is a scary shot too, because a lot of people don't know that Limos missed his last 2 weight cuts at 140. So it shows that he had trouble making weight way at 135. So that was just a crazy stretch in itself, but it is what it is.
No, it's all good, man. But he has, at the end of the day, I think the consensus is we want to see more from Keyshawn. Some of us are sold on who he is. Some of us aren't all the way, but I don't think anybody's like totally on board yet. You know what I mean? I think just eye test wise, we see potential, but he still needs to operate in a way to where he's delivering on the information by fighting the right fights. It is what it is.
Hey, can I say something? Can I say something real quick?
Yep.
Now, if you Keyshawn Davis, I'm gonna ask you guys a question real quick. I'm gonna be brief. If you Keyshawn Davis, you think it's best for him to go around and start a lot of fires, like with different fighters, like calling out just everybody, and then just kind of one by one just put them out, like be a fire starter? So yeah, you know, call out Tank, call out Keyshawn. Call out Andy Cruz, call out everybody that's close to your division or a champion, maybe a marquee name. And then it's kind of, I guess, basically just throwing stuff up against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah,
you know.
I think with Keyshawn, I think Keyshawn's in an interesting position right now. I think when you add Turkey to it, yes, I'm adding Turkey to the conversation. And when you add his ambassadorship with Ring Magazine and the energy and the machine he potentially has behind him and the excitement that he brings, the type of performances he does, he's kind of like almost operating with a little bit of a Gervonta Tank Davis type of momentum as far as must-see boxing, potential biggest paydays there involving Turkey Alalshikh. I think he just has to be kind of patient right now, fight these fights, but let's see what Ring Magazine has planned for him. Let's see what kind of fights and big fights that Turkey has planned for him. Does he need to go out there and start fires? I don't think it would hurt him necessarily, but I do think he's starting to become sort of a you call me out type of person. I'm the one who everybody wants to fight. Everybody wants to get in the ring with me because I'm potentially giving you the payday. I'm packing out the stadiums. I'm doing all these different things. Maybe he might benefit better off of operating off of that position now that he's kind of creeping into that position. He's not all the way there, but with this Edwin De Los Santos fight, I'm assuming at a minimum it's going to be a super exciting fight on the back end of a great victory on a fight that's exciting, no matter what the intangibles say, will build his market value up. And does he need to go out calling out people who aren't champions? No. I think he's better off, call out Tank for sure. Call Tank out. You know what I mean? It'd be kind of cool if you call out Shakur too. Call out champions. Call out Teofimo, right? A champion at 140. Do those things, but should I be talking down to an Andy Cruz and be like, you next? Maybe, yes. I don't know. I think he's kind of like in a more privileged space now than he was, this time last year. He might want to operate more like a boss now and as a face of boxing than something else. What I'm gonna do though is I'm gonna pull down like one or two guys right now. I'll put you in the back. I'm gonna pull up some people.
I'll volunteer, my guy. I got things to do in life, but I appreciate you guys having me on, man. It was great chopping it up, Ray. I know you see, you're up to 70%, bro. You're getting there. You're getting one day. You're one day. But everybody, man, thank you.
Right? He feels like it wasn't in vain. I came up, I got ready to go up to 70%. This wasn't.
Much love and respect to everybody on the panel. Everybody, hit the subscribe and like button. This is the Claymore channel, baby. All right, guys, peace out.
Peace, family. I'm gonna pull up Ant McQueen right quick. Ant, what's good with you, family?
Chilling, man. Chilling.
No doubt, man. I definitely wanted your perspective a little bit on this Keyshawn Davis conversation because we're going to definitely creep into the Abdullah Mason thing, segue into that after this as well. You know what I mean? But as far as the Keyshawn Davis, I'm sure you've been present for most of the conversation. Where are you sitting with Keyshawn right now?
I think Keyshawn is in the spot, man. And I think one thing that we often forget when having a conversation about Keyshawn Davis is still how relatively early he is in his career. So while I agree, and the brother made a point, there's backstories, fight, somebody was coming injury, somebody was coming off a layoff, and moved back down, so on and so forth. I mean, it's just boxing, right? But Keyshawn, this is going to be his, 13th fight or 14th fight? If you look at his resume, it's relatively lean to a lot of those other guys. Most guys in there 10-0, they're not a guy that's, 28-3 or something like that, that has a wealth of experience like Medueno. Medueno's 28-3 going into that fight. I think 24-9, 20. It was something crazy like that. 25. No, pardon me. He was 31-3 for that fight. 28 knockout. That was like Keyshawn's 11th fight or something like that. Most of these guys are not getting moved like that. You see what goes on over there with Golden Boy. Golden Boy, they're not gonna put you in there with somebody with a pulse like 40-0 or something like that. So I think Keyshawn, he's being moved the right way. Fighting guys, circumstances that are out of his control. I like what they're doing as far as having him fight them hometown fights over there at the Scope Arena. And I just want to say this, because Coach Eddie made a fantastic point about Darnell Boone. Because I was actually watching that fight the other day when he dropped Andre Ward with the uppercut. Then you got another guy like Cornelius Bundridge, who's like a career journeyman who's beat some notable guys like Casima and Carlos Molina. You know what I mean? Went on to become a champion. So I understand that Keyshawn is the guy who he has the money and the fanfare and everything like that behind him. But by the same token, I'm looking at Edward De Los Santos. I'm giving him a lot of props. This is a hell of a fight to step into all couch. We don't make note of. Like, yo, what about this guy? He's saying like, yeah, this guy's cherry picking him because he's coming off of whatever. But reverse that. If you're Edward De Los, if you're in his corner, if you're his team, his key Davis to fight, you want him coming off the couch for, you know what I'm saying? Or do you want him to go out there, get a lighter touch, work himself back into the mix and possibly back into contention? And Ray, I thought you also made a great point about going down the line. Like I was looking at the BO rankings the other day. Most of these guys are busy, they're tied up. They're tied up. If you go through them, this guy got a fight or this guy is just coming off of a fight, and it would be too short notice. And Edwin De Los Santos, as far as name recognition is concerned, he probably fits the bill the most out of all of the remaining guys, as far as credible guys with name and things of that sort. So I'm not necessarily mad at the fight. He could be very dangerous. Who the hell knows what happens? Keyshawn, as far as the eye test is concerned, I think that fight-by-fight basis, he's been showing a lot more. He's one of those guys where it's like, look at him under the microscope, the better he looks. The better he looks. Beyond just speed and power, just craftsmanship and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
There's not really too much not to like about him.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that he's not there yet in some people's eyes. I get it off the strength of it's a journey, right? And to say somebody's there or have arrived, you know, it's a statement within itself to say that. And is it fair to say that although it's not his fault, he's not cherry picking, he's not ducking, moving around, evading the competition, he's fighting who's getting put in front of him. And like I said earlier, I'm in agreement with the fact that first of all, I love the fact that you tapped into the fact that he's 13 fights into his professional career. His accomplishments should not be taken lightly. That people, you know, with the same records or better records haven't gone ahead and accomplished the things that he's accomplishing. But at the end of the day, is it also fair to say, you know what, you know, Jose Pedraza was a little weight drained. He's on his way out the door. So we're going to give him the respect for the fight on his record and his resume. But, you know, is that the fight? Was it the Miguel Medueno's fight? Who was, you know, I mean, yes, that was a great competitive fight. One of the fights I think really spoke about his character and his grit. But is that the fight? Is that the name? Is it Gustavo Lemos? You know, yes, Gustavo Lemos looked great against Richardson Hitchens. Looks like he pretty much won that fight. A lot of people thought he won that fight. But at the end of the day, you know, he came down also from 140 pounds and clearly had a problem with the weight cut. Came in overweight, but was he in shape? With, you know, all these different little asterisks. And then once again, going into the Dennis Baranchyk fight, which I thought was an official fight. Some people want to call him the poor man of what's my guy's name, Vasily Lomachenko, but still a great fighter, undefeated fighter until he fought Keyshawn Davis, an undefeated champion. He won that fight, but then you go into the Edwin De Los Santos fight with the injuries and him coming off of a loss and a lackluster performance with Shakur Stevenson, and now he goes directly into a title fight. It's convenient to a degree, but also inconvenient, being that, you know, he hasn't gotten that. Has he gotten that fight yet? And what's the fight going to be that he gets that really separates him? If it hasn't done it for you yet, what's the fight going to be?
What's it going to be? That's a good question.
Right.
That's a good question because, you know, Keyshawn doesn't have that many pro fights as it is. Like, he's only going to be in his 14th professional fight. So for him to actually get to the point where he is a world champion within 13 fights is, you know, kind of a feat in itself, because that really happens unless if you're, you know, a Vasily Lomachenko who tried to get a world title at pro fight number 2. So, you know, with that being said, he's kind of like accomplished a good amount of things here in a short amount of time. But now at this particular point, now that you, like as I mentioned, he shot up to around the top 5 in the lightweight rankings. Now it's about, okay, who is out there that you're willing to put him up against that, as you mentioned there, Claymore, that'll say, okay, that is a fight I want to see where Keyshawn is at this particular point. It could be Andy Cruz. It could be, I don't know if it's going to be like a Floyd Schofield or something like that, but it could be like an Andy Cruz or someone like a Ray Murataya maybe down the line or something like that. But, you know, we just have to see what Top Rank has planned in store here after this particular fight for Keyshawn Davis.
What do you guys think? And we're going to segue into the Abdullah Mason topic, right? Because Abdullah Mason also getting ready to be on this undercard. Abdullah Mason going up in the WB rankings out of nowhere. He's number 2. He's number 2 in the WBO rankings. Puts him in obviously in a conversation with Keyshawn Davis. But also, you know, Keyshawn Davis showing interest of, you know, going up to 140 and calling out Teofimo Lopez, who conveniently holds a title, a WBO title up there as well. As far as Abdullah Mason is concerned, him being at number 2, does that check a box for Keyshawn? Is that a fight that could happen that could potentially push over and sell the rest of the boxing space as far as Keyshawn arriving? If it's not going to be the Edwin De Los Santos fight, does an Abdullah Mason fight check that box?
I mean, people have been talking about Abdullah Mason as far as, like, you know, being that quote unquote prospect and him, you know, rise up, you know, really fast and things like that. You know, this is the second time he's going to be, you know, on a Keyshawn card over there in Norfolk. And, you know, he's of course mentioned, like, hey, he doesn't have any brothers in this thing. So if it's like anybody, like, he'll fight anybody in the lightweight division. So those rumblings will, like, kind of come up. It's just that, you know, as of right now, I don't see that being in the plans, you know, given what I've, you know, who I've talked to. So that's something that, you know, if the fans demand it, then, you know, maybe we'll see it in the future. But as of right now, like, they got a plan for, you know, Abdullah Mason as well. So it might be good to talk about. But yeah, as far as I know, like, they ain't really pushing to make that be possible anytime soon.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's the plan, but I was just wondering if that caliber of fighter, that level of fighter in Abdullah Mason might solidify the argument for Keyshawn Davis. You know, the fight without the asterisks, or will it be that he was just a prospect the other day? You know what I mean?
I don't know, because I mean, I was there when Abdullah Mason had that fight with Joan Gonzalez, and we saw what happened there in the first round with him getting knocked down twice. So after that, he's kind of shored up a good amount of things here when it comes to his defense and stuff. So we've seen his 2 performances. Now we got this thing here coming up against Nakatila. That's going to be a real interesting fight to see where Abdullah Mason is at this point in his career, though.
Right. That's
yeah. I'm looking at most of the champ, like, so far as the we know the guys that's the champions, and Vasily Lomachenko and Morataya, whatever's going to happen with that. But besides him fighting those guys, yes, I would give him credit for a formidable opponent if it's an Abdullah Mason, a Floyd Schofield, Tevin Farmer, a Tito Mercado, even like a Zepeda, even though he's about to fight Shakur. But those caliber of fighters that's active and has been fighting and not just like coming off of the couch off of an injury. That's why I had inserted the Frank Martin, stuff like that. Like Ray said, he probably more, active in the gym, training, stuff like that than what Santos wasn't able to do because of his injury. So those caliber of fighters, the couple guys I just named, yeah, they will be formidable opponents in my opinion.
No doubt. Coach Eddie, as far as Keyshawn and his movement is concerned, I don't think any of us on here have a problem with the way he's being moved. But as far as him legitimizing himself in that argument, if there is an argument, as far as what fight would be the fight that would have Keyshawn Davis arrive outside of the obvious Gervonta Tank Davises and the Shakur Stevensons and those big fights right there that are there. But what fight do you think stands out and gives him the green light on being the top guy?
Well, basically, it's going to be one of the younger guys because we basically got a strange division going on. We got the old guard, and I don't foresee him getting any of those guys at the top, like you just mentioned, the Shakur or the Tank. So all you have left is kind of guys that have a name, that look good on your resume, but may not translate in the ring. And then you have these young, hungry guys. You got a bunch of young, hungry champions right now. So it's almost like a reset in the division. The same thing we got going on at the 47 division. The old guard is out the pasture right now. They trying to collect their last few paychecks, trying to get them retirement checks in the bank. And you got a lot of young guys right there, that 47 division, who are trying to make a name for themselves. So it's going to have to be one of those young guys. Abdullah Mason, do we want to see them? Do we want to see that fight now? It would be good, but they're under the same promotion company. And I don't think Bob wants to get either one of those guys a loss right now. So I think they're going to move in a certain direction. I think they're just going to continue to fight names, guys with good, to build your resume, guys with good records, but maybe a little bit past it, or it's going to be always something. And that's what it is in boxing. It's timing. Boxing is all about timing. You catch a guy when he's shooting bad. You catch a guy when when his money's low, you can get him at a better price. Oh yeah, his car just got repoed. We can offer him this amount of money because he's shooting bad right now. It's all about the timing. And the streets talk. Boxing is a small community. They know when guys are doing bad. They know when guys are drinking too much. They know when guys are not training. They know all this stuff. It's people. They almost have like a reporter or like these private investigators that keep up with this type of stuff. They say, hey, now's a good time to get him. He ain't been training. He ain't been in the gym in 6 months. Let's call him. And try to catch you slipping. And that way now you can get that name on your resume. So basically you're getting the name, but you're not getting the guy at his best. You're getting the guy that's been, kind of sitting on the couch, but it looks good on your resume.
Right.
Because to my opinion, like the Albright fight, that was one of Keyshawn's most competitive fights, in my opinion. And it was an element of danger there because that dude was shooting at him. You know what I'm saying? But that's what you're gonna get when you get young guys. You're gonna get guys who's shooting at you. And not just a guy who's kind of just showing up, just kind of going off his name and resume. Right. Dangerous, but may not be that hungry anymore.
So I like what you said about the changing of the guard. You got your guys that's been around with same time as Keyshawn, and you got the guys that's starting to come up. Then you have your older guard that's actually been there for 3 or 4 years, or boxing for over a 7 year period. What I actually thought about, and I was actually, while you were talking about this, I'm like, why? Like Tevin Farmer was another name that, if you're taking people off of losses, Tevin Farmer was another name that stuck out to me. He's a guy that's available and was available. Let's be clear, because he now has a fight lined up. But there's so many fighters I'm looking across the board here that were available to make this fight with Keyshawn, other than a De Los Santos. De Los Santos wanted to fight though, so that's why I said in my opinion, I know it's a name, but I'm still taking the fight because De Los Santos was calling for the fight. It wasn't like Keyshawn went looking for it. It was just a name that popped across his table. He accepted. Let's also be clear on that, because De Los Santos was definitely in the back room screaming out this fight because he couldn't get the Tank fight. He was looking for another opportunity for a belt. Also, like I said, Gabriel Flores. Gabriel Flores is a great fighter. You have Javier Herrera, who just came off a fight in March, I believe, and he's looking for opportunity. There's another fighter that we could have actually took and put in the ring with Keyshawn. I think it would have been a really good fight, a great firework. And Javier is out there saying that he's like one of the best. So why not? No, not a lot of people know him. It'll be a good fight to put in the ring, and he'll get his name out there. It'll help a lot. So I see what you're saying, Coach. It's a lot of things that, it's putting Keyshawn in a predicament almost. But you know what? I'm not mad at the fight, again, because like I said, I think De Santos called it out. I think Keyshawn is doing what he has to do. And it's what's out there. It's chess, not checkers. Time will happen if you play your cards right.
That's what I meant to say. Javier, not Tito Mercado. My fault.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, man. Step by step fight. You can only fight one fight at a time. You can't fight everybody at the same damn time, and you can't. You got to also combine that with availability. It is what it is. As far as Abdullah Mason is concerned, look, it looks like they want to fast track him a little bit. Last year, Abdullah Mason, 6-7 fights in 1 year? You know what I mean? In a year time period, something like that.
7 in a year, Yeah, time period, but 6 in a year. Yeah,
6 in a year, like 7 in like a month-to-month year, right? Like
yeah.
right. So active, super active. They wanted to fast track him. He's been delivering. He's had some adversity. We've seen him get shot on his pockets. And show up. In my opinion, I personally looked at it as grit. Seeing him get sat on his pockets and come back and stop that guy. I thought it was a good thing, right? I like the adversity. I want to see him facing better fighters, and with this Nakatilia fight, it is right. We'll see somebody who poses a little bit of danger, bring some boxing. I wanted to see him in there with somebody who can move around a little bit. I think we might get that a little bit, but at the end of this fight, let's say this fight goes the way that the odds say it will go, which is that he has a high knockout ratio. He stops this guy, right? He makes a statement. Has Abdullah Mason arrived? And, at this point, being as ranked as high as he is in the WBO sanctioning body, guys also remember that Ring Magazine these guys are ambassadors for Ring Magazine. So they got the money behind them now. Abdullah sent out the offer. The team sent out the offer for the $1 million to fight Floyd Schofield Jr. He decided not to take it. But at this point, is there an argument where Abdullah Mason is ready? Are they moving him too fast, or is he ready to be up there fighting the top level fights that 135 has to offer him?
Now, I think he's ready, because what usually happen in boxing, it is guys basically just recycling the same opponents amongst each other. You know what I'm saying? And everybody gonna have the same guys on their resume, and the resume is gonna look similar until they fight each other.
Right.
So I think, do you want to put the guys? You got the business part of it also. If you put them together too early, then you're gonna cancel out, some of the profit that you could have made if you would have prolonged the fight, stretch the fight out a couple of years, let it build a little bit, make the fight bigger, let both guys boost their profile up. So now, instead of it being maybe a 6-figure or 7-figure fight, maybe now it's a 10-figure fight, because we was able to parlay it into a promotion, and everybody wants to see it now. It's a really big event, because like I say, these stars that they're getting ready, they're starting to fade right now. So they need to get a new group of guys that's going to fill that void that's about to be created when the Canelos go away, when the Tan Crawfords, when the Usyks, the Charlo, all those guys they're out the pasture right now. So they got to start building these young guys up. So we want to see them fight now, but for the business sake that we put them together, why they're young like this. So that's a question that may be above my pay grade.
I like that.
Yeah.
Boxing source. Where are you at on this topic, though? As far as Abdullah Mason, is he getting fast tracked a little too fast at this point, or is he right on time? Is about that time after this fight? Will that be the fight to kind of like solidify him as far as who he is at 135? Is he ready to fight the top guys right now?
No, but that's because of who I communicate with. So that's basically it. I'm just giving you a straightforward answer. So that's pretty.
What do you mean? No, he's not ready, or what do you think?
I'm not sure, but I think that's because of the current state of the lightweight division. I don't think the lightweight division right now has that many, like top fighters out there. I was looking at one of the top 10 rankings for lightweight, and it has like Abdullah Mason at number 7, and the fighters below him are like Abdullayev, Dennis Berinchik, and Frank Martin, who Frank Martin is going to be fighting at 140. So it just shows you like there isn't that many fighters out there within the top 10 that you could say is a potential opponent for Abdullah Mason. One, maybe Dennis Berinchik, but outside of that, you really don't have that many options where you could say if we put Abdullah against this guy that's ranked below him, that is going to really like kind of gauge him as a top fighter. I mean, maybe if there was some way they could have Floyd Schofield Jr. Face him, but if we all know what Floyd Schofield Sr. said about all that, but even with that, I doubt that particular fight is going to take place.
It's interesting. Ray, you was about to build on something, right?
Yeah, no, I was going to let everybody go through, but if you want me to tap in, I was just going to say with Abdullah Mason, I don't think he's really being fast tracked. I think it's about time. I mean, he's almost 20 fights in. He's had his share of 8-round fights. Now he's moving into his 10-rounder. He's been ranked number 2 in the WBO. I think it's time that he arrived. I think it's time for him to step up. I've been asking for him to step up in his last 2 or 3 fights. I think Nakatili is a great journeyman at this point because I think he, after the Shakur loss, he took 2 knockouts, severe to Muratalla and to Ernesto Mercado, right? And him losing those 2 fights, I think those are very important. And those both those guys were on Shakur's radar. So it's actually another point. So that puts him in a great perspective. Now, as he moves forward, I think he needs to step up after this fight, and now he needs to start looking to gain that championship. I remember talking on the show, Clay, with you, and we were talking about him maybe even moving to 140, just forgetting about this because his opportunity for one of these championships may be long in waiting. Because the fact that he's a prospect and all these guys have belts, and when is he going to get the opportunity? Because he's such a good fighter, are people going to accept and risk the opportunity of losing to somebody that's new and up and coming? Would it just be good for him to just move a whole different direction and just take it upon himself to just jump in the division where it's easier to make these fights? And we know he's not going to be at 135 long. He's a big kid. At I think he made 135 twice in his last 2 fights when it counted, outside of being a prospect. But I think he's going to go up there, and I think he'll make a statement with Nakatila. It's a dangerous fight. It's a good move. I think his next fight should be exactly where it needs to be. I think he needs to fight somebody in the top 10, if not the top 7. I will actually say top 7 in any of the sanctioning bodies. Get himself well-rounded in that atmosphere, and then look to make another fight with a champion. If not, for an interim belt. I think that's the way to go. And then we'll see him next, possibly at the end of the year or next year early, in a championship fight with whoever and whomever.
I like it. Guys, have we spoken about the David Benavidez present situation yet in the room? Have we talked about this at all? Or we haven't done it, right?
Not yet.
Awesome. So I'm definitely interested in your guys' perspective. Did you guys get an opportunity to see the David Benavidez interview with Henry Cejudo and Kamaru Usman on that show?
Yes.
Okay,
I just called
cool.
clips of it. I didn't.
Okay. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it was good to hear from David Benavidez. I stated it earlier that, breath of fresh air, whenever we can hear it from the horse's mouth, we can get the fighter's perspective on the way things have been moving around for him and kind of see where he's at with it. I mean, we can start with Anton and then make our way around and come back full circle to Ray. Ray already kind of communicated a little bit on it, but he's had some time to think. I kind of rushed him before. Yeah, Anton, go ahead. So where you at?
Hear me?
Yeah, we're listening to you, Anton. Go ahead. Where you at with the David Benavidez conversation?
So with David, I'm kind of on Ray said earlier. He's kind of what's the word that Ray used? He contradicted himself, and I'm kind of with where David Benavidez. I'm kind of for in the same realm, like focus on Canelo and stuff like that. Every interview is getting a little bit of draining. My thing is, bro, and he's been doing it though. He's definitely been forging his own path on his career, but continue to do that. Continue to build your name up, fight these guys, and blaze your own path. Like, I don't really got too much to say on the topic. I just want David to keep doing what he's been doing. Like, he's been fighting some good opponents. Now he's at 175. Try to go up there, make the big and best fights, conquer that division, and move on with your career. That's pretty much really all he can do. But he definitely kind of contradicted himself in that interview a little bit. But yeah, that's all I got on that topic.
No doubt. The boxing source, where you at with this David Benavidez situation? How's it aging? These moves that were made for him, elevating him to be a champion and not, I mean, let's speak to the elephant in the room, choosing not to do business with Turkey Alalshikh. How's that aging as far as from your perspective?
I mean, at the moment, I thought David Benavidez understood the situation between Turkey and Bivol, that he kind of fully understood that if they were going to have it to where Bivol won, that they would have a third fight between those two. Now him kind of, either pushing for the situation with the WBC or him pushing for the situation. I mean, it is what it is on that front to me, because I guess they did that in order to bring more notoriety to him as a fighter within that particular division, light heavyweight division. His promoter, claims that they have plans for Benavidez. They said, have a fight here coming up, and then try to go after the winner for like a potential Cinco de Mayo fight between the winners. But I think his situation right now is, how long is he going to be at light heavyweight? I've like heard words that he, maybe could have 1 or 2 fights at the most there at light heavyweight before going up to cruiserweight, because, of course, he's had the story about getting down to 168 from the beginning of his career. So he's still like a natural, like 200 type, pound fighter, getting down to these weights. And the older you get, the harder it is to, get down to that weight. So I want to see what happens first with his upcoming fight in the fall. And then after that, if he's going to still be at 175 in 2026.
Yeah. It is looking kind of crazy. Coach Eddie already spoke on a little bit. To be honest with you, Coach Eddie said something real significant. And I was on a panel yesterday. I was speaking with Jules over there at Ring IQ. Shout out to Jules and Ring IQ. That's actually one of my favorite channels out there. I ain't gonna lie. We were speaking on there, and there was a point that, and Coach Eddie said it again, and made me think about it again. But Coach Eddie said it's starting to look like David Benavidez doesn't want the big fights, right? Like he took his career into his own hand and made the David Morrell fight happen, right? He made that happen. But when it came time and he was confronted with an opportunity to be put in position to fight the winner of a Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev, he all of a sudden allowed Samson Leakowitz to take the helm and drive it. Now he has like this, I wouldn't have done it this way type of energy. If it was my choice, I would have rather have fought for the belt. But then why didn't you then? You were confronted with it. You were flown out to Saudi Arabia. There was, Turkey Alalshikh provided you the lane to get into the fight. He gave you the fight with Caleb Smith, the fight that you're pushing for right now. He offered you the lucrative deal. He promised you the big fight at the end of that. This is what you were speaking on. That's why he flew you out to Saudi Arabia. And Turkey Alalshikh's he hasn't shown to be the type of person who doesn't honor what he's trying to do. Will he get it done all the time? No, it takes the promoters and the fighters and everybody else to get on the same page, but he's relatively stayed true to it, right? Even with the Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney situation as an example, even though Ryan Garcia is coming off of a loss, he's still like, I still want to have a fight. I still want to do it. It's Ryan and Oscar and them who are like, they're not interested in it, but he always seems to be consistent with staying behind his word. Why at this moment would you all of a sudden take the back seat and do a move that I think is pretty obvious from the outside looking in? It's obvious that you put yourself at odds with Turkey. It's obvious that you didn't take the opportunity. Why did you even go to Saudi Arabia? Why did you even go through all of that just to leave that same day and walk away and not take that opportunity? And then 2 weeks later, we see that Mauricio Suleiman is applying the pressure to Dmitry Bivol, saying that he's going to make you, well, not even a week later, I think it was like inside that week, all of a sudden you became the mandatory, and we all knew that Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev was going to fight this trilogy. Even you said you knew that it was going to happen. You said that you thought it was fair and only right that it happens. You wouldn't get in the way of that. What changed? So at this point, is it a fair argument to say that David Benavidez doesn't want these big fights?
Yo, can I chime in real quick?
Yes, sir.
Like we talked about this several times. I think I heard Ray say, and maybe you also said, it's like David's painting himself in the corner for no reason. To me, it's kind of spoiled behavior and bratish behavior. It's him saying, I just want to fight in Las Vegas. When you got guys like Terence Crawford who went to Scotland and he fought Ricky Burns. Tank Davis went to London and fought Walsh. Errol Spence went across the pond. He fought Kell Brook. So this is not uncommon for these guys in the U.S. to go over there to the U.K. across the water and fight these guys. And it was the plan was already laid out. Turkey seemed to be a man of his word. The money is not an issue. The man said, you fight, Callum Smith, your next fight is going to be against the winner of Turkey and Bivol. That was it. The plan is set. He probably would have had him sign the contract and everything. Already signed, still delivered. All you gotta do is do this. Like I said, he didn't want to fight. It's plain and simple. He did not want. He wanted a belt, and that's another thing I wish they would stop doing. Stop elevating these guys. Do like they did in the old days. When the belt became vacant, let number 1 and number 2 fight for it. That way, there's no more email champ. Fight for that belt. Yep. And I'm gonna land my plane right there.
I actually agree with that.
Shout out to
I
Nick
agree
J.
with him 100%.
Let me read this, what Nick J said real quick here, because and everybody can speak to it. But she says, I don't see it like that. The man got messed over so bad at 168. Now, I can see why he took his opportunity to get the belt when he had it. David has proven he wants to smoke too many times to say that. I'll speak to it real quick and try and land my plane as soon as possible. I agree. I think I was right there with that mindset, Nick J, as far as who David Benavidez was, right? But, in this particular situation, and I think Coach Eddie spoke to it, and we got to keep it 100 to say, well, what are you fighting for? Are you fighting the best to prove? Your argument has always been that you want to fight the best out there to prove who you are, or are you just interested in getting the belt by any means necessary? Does a victory via the pen, is that equivalent to a victory via the fight, right? If it's just getting a title no matter what, then the politics of the sport is what the politic is, and we still have looked at David Benavidez through the wrong lens, because the lens that I've always seen David Benavidez through is that he wants to fight the best fights out there. Well, the move he did going to Saudi Arabia, Turkey Alalshikh offering him an opportunity to be in those fights, that him not taking that confused me, right? Like him not fighting Caleb Smith, a fight that he's pushing for right now, a lucrative fight that Samson Leakowitz said he was offering him, and understanding that on the back end of that, he was going to get to fight the winner of a Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev, choosing to walk away from that. And that's what he did, right? No matter what we want to look at it as, he flew out of Saudi Arabia. He didn't take that opportunity just to get elevated to become a WBC champion, and now you put yourself on the outside. And I also think it's kind of weird that in the position that David Benavidez is that he would try to, the position that he's in, to choose to operate as an A side to try to force Dimitri Bivol to come to Las Vegas to fight in his backyard under his terms and conditions, when Dimitri Bivol was a unified, undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world, and not understanding that it was going to take some concession from David Benavidez to go and fight Dimitri Bivol, where Dimitri Bivol was favored or celebrated more, or it had the home field advantage. How realistic was that in that fight being made? There's an argument to be made that he understood that operating from that position was going to alienate him out of that opportunity, but maybe understanding and knowing that Mauricio Sulaiman had a game plan on getting him there, or Samson Leakowitz understanding that there was a game plan to get him there without doing the work, was just as appealing or even more appealing than actually fighting the fight that was in front of him. I'll leave it to the panel to kind of build on the comment here, whoever, Ray,
right.
matter of fact.
I'm definitely about to put some.
When somebody show you who they is, believe them.
Let me put some Pam in this frying pan right now, because I'm about to, for real. Oil, olive oil, peanut oil, everything. Let's go.
Olive oil, no cholesterol.
So whatever. Listen, at the end of the day, this is what we're doing, right? So let's look at the position that David Benavidez has put himself in first and foremost. He was a champion. He failed the drug test. He was a champion. He got stripped for missing weight. Therefore, he had the belt 2 times. He could have took the opportunity to fight Canelo both times. Then, not only that, he's been the champion, and he had the opportunity to fight the champion not once but twice, if I'm not mistaken, as mandatory, where he never activated that mandatory status. It doesn't matter what Mauricio says or anybody else. That shows you that there's politics in this WBC. They were protecting Canelo. Canelo wasn't protecting Canelo. Canelo had the right to fight whoever he wanted to fight. And if Benavidez come across that table the way he wanted, that's on him. Who's still reaching for the Canelo fight? Benavidez is now at 175. He still wants that fight. So at the end of the day, there's never been a chance for Canelo to say yes or no. Canelo could have been forced into that fight if Benavidez had took that opportunity. Now, moving forward, he's now at the light heavyweight division, and instead of him waiting his turn for the fight, which he chose to move there, by the way, when he was given the ultimatum, right? Because they was like, hey, we'll give you the Canelo fight if you can wait till after the next one, or you can move up and we'll get you the championship fight with the WBC championship there, which he moved up that way and took that. So now he moved up to do that, still in the same situation. He never got the belt. He had to wait. And because I guess they felt bad for him, they decided to strip another fighter to give him the belt instead of having him wait one fight to get it, which now he'll never get an opportunity at undisputed unless those belts get scattered. Because no one right now is going to fight him. He's not going to be able to fight Anthony Yarde. He's probably going to fight Caleb Smith for an opportunity who's going to get the undisputed fight after Bivol and better BF. So where does that leave our boy Benavidez right now? Exactly. Waiting in the wind for somebody to give him a shot. And he's not going to get that shot. So what does he do? He goes up and fights Zerto. Now, what happens when he beats Zerto, if he beats Zerto and gets the WBC championship there? He's going to hold on to 2 belts? No, he's going to end up dropping that belt. Somebody at light heavyweight is going to end up being a champion. And I can tell you right now, he ain't beating Jai, and I don't think he's beating Bayou Jack. So it leaves him right in the same position as where he is right now. He took chances on things of being impatient, and when he had opportunities, he didn't push for the opportunities. This opportunity of him taking a belt through the email instead of just waiting for that title shot was on him. He put himself in this position, and I think David Benavidez had every sense of doing the right thing, but I think his management and his team has pushed him a different way. And at the end of the day, I think his team and their ideas of the way he should move is hurting his career right now and making him look bad.
Facts.
All right, that last part,
Absolutely.
I agree with, and I've heard that. Now, the thing with David Benavidez was after he had his fight with Caleb Plant in the early part of 2023, like he had that opportunity, or the demand for him to fight Canelo Alvarez was pretty much at his peak. Now at that time, that was actually the opportunity where Canelo would have chose if he was going to fight Benavidez or not. And what he ended up doing, he ended up saying that he'll go ahead and fight at the time Jamal Charlo. Of course, it ended up being Jamel Charlo. So once that decision was basically made, at least for most people, they said that particular fight between Canelo and Benavidez wasn't going to happen. So with that being said, that's why he had Benavidez fight Demetrius Andrade, and then eventually move up to fight Alexander Gvozdyk. So with him having an interim belt for both of those weight classes, it really wouldn't have mattered. So because even if he chose to be at 168, what's the point? That doesn't guarantee that he's going to get the Canelo fight. So Canelo could drop that belt and he would end up being as some people say, email champion at 168. So it's either be a email champion at 168, as they say, or be an email champion at 175. Right now, he's a champion at 175, and it's like I said before, it's going to be up to his promotional company, to see if he gets that particular fight with the Vitorvia Bivol winner. But yeah, I'm getting a vibe that he's realizing that his promotional company ain't really working for his best interest.
And that can also segue into the interest of a promotional company not aligning with your current present interests. We watched the great fighters make the proper moves to put themselves in position. They weren't able to just dictate terms. Terrence Crawford wasn't able to dictate terms from Top Rank. People throw it in Shakur's face and saying that him choosing to be over at Matchroom put him in a position to where, he couldn't make the fight with Tank, which I vehemently disagree with that. But we watch fighters move around. Canelo Alvarez, man, the face of boxing, moves around where he sees fit. He does not let opportunities leave him because of stupid ass across the street politics. He'll be at the zone where he needs to be at the zone. He'll be at the PBC when he needs to be at the PBC, and he's currently with Turkey Alalshikh because that's where it makes more sense for him. So at some point or another, there's an argument there to say that fighters always get confronted with these crossroads that they hit to where it's them or the company. And we're watching David Benavidez, in my opinion, play the company man role, and I don't know how that aligns with his goals as far as being a great fighter or a champion. I don't know how that works, how that's working out for him.
I do feel like Canelo earned his right to move how he's moving now. He earned his right, and like Ray said, with David, I kind of look at it as you got a chance to fight for the title, just wait one fight, or you rather be emailed the belt. You chose your path. So to me, you don't want the big fights.
He could have got all the belts, not just one. He could have got multiple belts. And this
He
is
could
the
have
guy
had
that you this is the guy you supposedly handled and sparred easily. So why wouldn't you wait on that? If you so confident, I beat Bill up several times. Okay, so you got a guy that you handle easily and sparred that, according to you, and all you gotta do is wait one fight, and you get a shot at all the belts. But I think the thing is, once you get all those belts, you got to defend all of them, and it's a lot of live dogs at 175. That's
A
why he's
lot of
trying to
live
jump out.
dogs.
That's why he's trying to jump out of there and go fight Zerto, because they feel like we could probably handle him. I know him, but he may not want to fight the Joshua Bawasi. One thing about the guys in the UK and in England, they fight.
What's the guy
They
that
fight.
fought Colin Smith last?
Arturo Benavidez.
No, Colin
No,
Smith.
the one in February.
You said Connor Smith?
Oh,
Colin
Joshua
Smith.
Bawasi. It was Joshua Bawasi.
Yeah.
Bawasi, he's nice, man. I love.
Yeah, there's a lot of smoke in that division. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And I think somebody just in here, I think it was Nick J. Let me just find it right quick. She said something that I think is an inconvenient truth that people just don't want to acknowledge. She says, how do you earn the right to openly duck? You do when the sanctioning bodies find the vested interest. When you done as much as Canelo has done, achieved as much as he's achieved, however you want to argue it, he's done a lot, and you're bringing as much money as you're bringing, you get the space by the sanctioning bodies to move a little bit more freely. And Canelo's only doing what the sanctioning bodies are allowing him to do. I'm here with you, though. Is he openly ducking David Benavidez? 100%, I believe he is. I think he sees it as a very difficult fight. He knows and acknowledges that he's not a natural 168-pound fighter, that he's really a 160-pound, maybe even 154-pound fighter, and that at 168, he can be careful with who he's going to fight against if he's earned the right to do it. Now, David Benavidez, ended up on a real shitty side of that relationship that Canelo Alvarez has with the WBC. But once again, that was then. That's okay. I'm not throwing shots at him for what didn't happen between him and Canelo. But I can't help. This is more blatant. Like, this was an opportunity. This is equivalent to, could you imagine if Turkey Alalshikh could get Canelo to fight David Benavidez, right? That Canelo was right on board, that all Canelo had to do was rematch, let's say Terrence Crawford, before David Benavidez got his opportunity to fight Canelo Alvarez. What would we be saying about David Benavidez if he left Saudi Arabia, didn't get that fight with Canelo Alvarez that we all saw was going to happen, just because he wanted to operate from an A-side privilege to say that I don't want to fight in Mexico or in Riyadh season, wherever Canelo wants the fight to happen, to say that, no, I want that fight to happen in my backyard. We would have been looking at David Benavidez crazy, bro, to be like, bro, you really think you're going to sit here as an interim champion in a division where you barely proven yourself because you beat another 168-pounder in David Morrell? Great fight. A lot of people saw the fight. I thought it was a fight of the year candidate. That was a great fight, but still, how proven are you at 175 to sit here to play with somebody who's been defending his titles for going on 7 years, and then now just became an undisputed champion by beating the other best guy in the division? You're going to dictate the terms, or you're going to walk? Nah, bro. That makes no sense. That means there's an argument to say that you never wanted the fight. Because we all know, in order to make these fights, it takes concession. It takes for you to embrace your B-side space that you're occupying presently, and you beat the guy who beat the guy. Then you take your belts, and now you dictate the terms of where those fights happen when you're defending your title, not the other way around. Am I crazy?
Nope.
No, you spot on. That was a bonehead move. And David is looking like a bonehead right now, man. I'm starting to say this right here about David. I think he's confident. He doesn't appear to be as confident as he lets on to be, because he's been used to beating up 154 and 160-pound fighters. He doesn't feel comfortable staying at 175. That's why he's trying to dip his toe in the water and jump out real quick and go over and fight Zerto, because he figured that's a fight. That's a matchup type of fight. He's not campaigning at cruiserweight division.
And that ain't no easy fight.
Nope.
That he just think that he gonna win. And I'm kind of on a different page with the Canelo. Like I said, he formed his path to choose and move how he want to move. And I don't necessarily know if he's scared of Benavidez, ducked him or not. But Canelo, the only guy that I know that moved from 160 and stopped the guy 2 divisions up. So that's a puncher, a real puncher in Sergey Kovalev. So I don't know, man. I just feel like Canelo doing what he want to do, and like you said, the sanctioning bodies is allowing him to do what he want to do.
Right.
Yeah,
And,
all of them but the IBF, of course.
right. Well, the WBC, excuse me, said if he would have stayed there, they would have gave him the Canelo fight. They would have, well, not gave him, but they would have gave him an opportunity for the belt. Right? They did say that he had an option. He just had to wait. Either way, he would have had to wait, and he still was waiting, no matter what path he took. He chose to go up because he thought it'd be greener. If we all remember back then, Turkey had offered to fight with David Morrell and said the winner would get the winner of David Benavidez and Dimitri Bivol and Arturo Benavidez, right? So he said he would give him the winner of that, and he was trying to put them on the same card. Unfortunately, that didn't work, and they both went their own ways with the PBC, and then they ended up fighting each other anyway. And I guess Turkey must have had some conversation behind the scenes because they ended up getting that fight. Now, at the end of the day, I like David Benavidez. I think he's a great fighter, but I just don't see him. I didn't see him jumping down memory lane to fight anybody at 175 besides what's a homeboy named Morrell. And I don't think he takes that fight Morrell again. I think Morrell hit him so hard. I think he realizes what that division's about. And I think Morrell gets a second chance at it. He beats David Benavidez. And I think David Benavidez feels the same way. So he's going to move cautiously throughout that division. They'll meet again, and Morrell might get this shot before you know it, because he might go around and get the fight with the winner, Caleb Smith and Anthony Yard, if they fight. So he might be the guy over there. He might be fighting for the undisputed title or the 3 belts, the unified. And guess who's going to be knocking on that door?
And Benavidez going to be left in the win.
And that's what I'm saying. Guess who's going to be knocking on that door? Benavidez trying to fight now on the inside and David Morrell, which is crazy, right?
I think American boxing fans understanding that we come from a culture where across the street politics dominate. We shouldn't be delusional about the idea that the opportunities in the light heavyweight division and the cruiserweight division, these are European divisions at this point. You know what I mean? You need to have access to that space over there in order to make the biggest fights. And I don't think there's an argument to be made that Turkey Alalshikh controls and has his finger on the pulse of a lot of what's going on in that European division. To go on the opposite side of a conversation and try to dictate terms to somebody who you have no leverage over, you have to go into that knowing that that's not going to end well. And it starts to begin to look like you factor that into the way you moved and that you anticipated it not going well. And it provided you a way out of fights that you're selling us you're interested in, but not acting and walking in the spirit of wanting to make those fights. One second. Sugar Free Mars says we have to change the language in boxing. Supposing that a fighter earns a right to duck is a deplorable concept and mindset. It does nothing for the sport but spoil and limit the art and the passion. Well, here it is, right? Sugar Free Mars, I agree with you on everything you said there, but I think we need to know where the blame lies. And we have to understand when a fighter is operating inside of his privilege, we can't expect him to do anything else. The sanctioning bodies have a responsibility to have structure and laws that make sense, that hold these fighters accountable. But when the fighters are operating and are in compliance with the sanctioning bodies and operating in the capacity that the sanctioning bodies give them the space to operate in, we can't fault the fighters for making the moves that make more sense to them. If Canelo Alvarez is given the freedom and the space to operate in a place where he can choose his competition and he can move around heavier competition, well, it's up to the fighter who wants the title to hold the sanctioning body accountable, to apply the pressure accordingly. And unless David Benavidez can show us that he activated mandatories, that he pushed back at the WBC, that he made it happen, that he didn't just sit back and watch it develop because he didn't want to shake up the water, he didn't want to make enemies with people like Mauricio Suleiman and of that nature, then he allowed the game to play him, and Canelo Alvarez did what he was rightfully what he rightfully earned the right to do, clearly, because the sanctioning bodies allowed him to do it.
Right.
I'll land my plane and say that if you're operating in a capacity to when you go to McDonald's, you're allowed to eat free no matter what and cut the line. People get mad at you for going in there, cutting the line, eating for free when McDonald's allows you to do it. They can't sit there and say that you're wrong and you're not honorable and you have low integrity because you're operating in a capacity that McDonald's gave you the privilege to do. You got to be mad at McDonald's. You got to throw shots at McDonald's and say, what are you doing? Why are you letting this person disrespect the game by cutting in front of me, getting service, better service than me, eating free? Why do I got to pay for my Big Mac and this dude doesn't have to pay for it? And you have to have your argument with them. But Canelo Alvarez or the person who's getting their free meal can't be held accountable when clearly they've earned the right to have a free meal. It is.
And we're not talking about Terrence Crawford. We talking about Canelo Alvarez. We ain't never questioned Canelo's resume.
Right. Now,
we're not talking about Crawford and Boots.
But
we
Canelo,
never questioned Canelo.
In reference to Canelo, though, we've all followed Canelo's career, and he's been a multi-division world champion. But even with that, there have been multiple instances where mandatory challengers have forced the issue with Canelo Alvarez, and they basically made the decision. How many times has Canelo Alvarez vacated a belt? Multiple times. WBC with Gennady Golovkin, IBF with Sergey Derevyanchenko, IBF again with William Skull, right? So he's vacated belts on multiple occasions when the mandatory forces the issue and asks for the WBC to come through on that. So on to the point with David Benavidez is it's like you had this instance where regardless if there was a point where Canelo could have chose to fight you, you could have still forced the issue when you were the WBC interim champion after defeating Caleb Plant. Why didn't you force the issue then? Because it's like you're going up to 175 to fight Gvozdyk, but you still want to have the little dilemma of being an interim champion of 168, 175. Why didn't you push the issue in 2023 after you beat Caleb Plant? That's where the question lies.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I love the points, man. I think the points are clear, man. Guys, it's about that time for me. We're running close to the 4-hour mark. And I got things to do. I actually gotta make a run over to UPS and drop something off over there. Man, you guys always hold me here, bro. But I love every minute of it, man. Boxing talk is always so interesting with scholarship is on the panel, and there's always scholarship as of late on the panel. I appreciate you guys being here. You know, we'll be back on tomorrow. I hope to see you guys here again. Hope you guys enjoyed yourselves on the panel today. You know, Echo's in the building.
Yeah. And listen, at the end of the day, Sugar Free, Nick J, we would love to have some of you queens on the panel, man. I mean, queens. So I don't know what ladies, because it's a breath of fresh air to have a different voice and a different tonality and it's a perspective. Because us men, we can be a little, rambunctious in these boxes. So.
And the women kind of mellow it out, like not gonna cuss as much and cut each other off as much. We always gonna try to change the temperature a little. A woman's presence, a lady's touch sometimes is what the room needs when we got some hostile people like HLD coming in to shake the room up.
You knew where I was going with them. Just kidding, HLD, man. I'm just messing with you, bro.
Nah, man. Salute to everybody, man. Who was on the panel today, man. Salute to Coach Eddie, Anton Ziegler, Boxing Source, man. Refreshing, man. Shout out to the people who are here that are not here right now, as far as Aunt McQueen is concerned. HLD that was up here, man. Great conversations, man. Great words. Guys, remember to please hit the like button if you haven't done it. Let's make sure the likes represent the amount of people that were in the building today. Take a moment to do that. Don't be a hater your whole life. You know what I mean? And colors always respected and loved. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed to the channel. If you're sitting there right now and you've not subscribed to the channel, why haven't you? Take a moment, hit that subscribe button.
I'm strip you your title if you ain't doing it yet. I'm letting you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is what it is. Echo's good to see you in the building, man. He said, HLG don't give a F, equal opportunity, male or female can get the small. Yeah, see?
I don't know. I think sugar free is cookie, bro. But I'm gonna stay out of that one. I'm just letting you know.
Let's let them cook each other. They're gonna cook each other. Let's not gaslight this situation.
No, I don't want to gaslight it. I'm literally keeping it 100, but I'm gonna leave it alone.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. I'll let you guys get your little closeouts and we can step out the room, man. We can go with Anton. Anton, how you feeling on your way out the door? You mute, Anton. I don't think we can hear you. Bad reception? Yeah, he got bad reception.
Saying peace in his picture, so I think he's
he's probably out. Boxing Source, any outro?
Just happy to be on the panel there. Look forward to fights coming up. Of course, we got the fights in Vegas May 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Plant in action, Jamal Charlo in action. Don't sleep on the Cameron Davis versus Yoeli Hernandez fight on there too. So that's gonna be a good one. And just looking forward to these fights in the summer, man. We're gonna have some good events there coming up. So just be on the lookout for that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going to be talking more about those fights tomorrow, too. That's what we're going to be diving into is this weekend of fights coming up. So, yeah, pop up tomorrow if you want to talk about that. For sure, we'll be there.
All right, yeah, I'll see y'all hit you up about that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Salute, salute.
We watching.
Peace. Coach Eddie.
Yeah. Salute, brother. Thanks for having me up. Great boxing talk today, as usual. It's a clip out there where Floyd Mayweather talks about having the ability to pick and choose. And he said Canelo earned that right. I mean, y'all probably familiar with that clip. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this stuff, I ain't gonna put it all on Floyd, but I mean, a lot of these guys are looking at the moves that Floyd made, in his later, the Money Mayweather phase, and they're emulating that. I mean, high reward, low risk. So that's the space that we're in right now in some of these fighters, but like I say, great boxing talk. I'd say David, he kind of exposed himself, in my opinion. But it is what it is. Looking forward to the Keyshawn fight. Looking forward to all the upcoming fights that we got on the horizon. And can't wait the Canelo Chance Crawford fight. I can't wait to that fight. I'm anxious to see that. I want to see Bud do his thing, man. Go out there and represent for the people and put on for us. But that's my 2 cents right there, and I'm gonna land my plane right there. Salute, Clay and Ray. Thanks, brother.
All right, man.
Thank you, Coach. To the next one.
Yes, sir.
All right, Ray, another one in the books, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We had some good conversations today, man. Look, man, a lot of perspective. I don't know if the perspective changed completely, but I think you kind of been ahead of it on this David Benavidez and Canelo thing. But I think, this thing happening right now with David Benavidez and where he's at right now kind of speaks loud, right? There's some volume of what's going on right now. And we're getting past the excuses and start to put a little accountability on him, right?
And I agree. I respect what he's doing, every sense of the way. But I'm just looking like you keep mentioning, like the whole point of my argument is he keeps mentioning Canelo. We're past that. You're past that. You're talking about other things, and you're championing your own right now. You should be satisfied, but yet you still reflect on that. And now you messed up the opportunity to become something that you wanted, which was a unified champion or undisputed champion, because you just couldn't play fair. I mean, you took the chance of being greedy or moving a certain way, and now the division may even hold you out. That's costly. That's when a whole division is going to probably hold everything against you, and the only thing you're going to get is a tough fight with somebody that you don't want to take a risk with. You know what I mean? That's going to be tough, and I think that challenges you, which I think he's up for the challenge. He's always showed to be a warrior, but I think it challenges you to having to deal with this mentally. You know what I mean? It's not so much of the physical part of it. It's the mental part. And then you're going to be calling everybody a duck or everybody's avoiding you when they're not, when you had opportunity and it was all set up for you because you jumped the gun. And sometimes we got to be patient. And I think it shows where his patience is. And again, to correct myself on that, he showed a lot of patience with Canelo. He did show a lot of patience with Canelo. But I think that patience has ruined him at 175 currently in some of the decisions he made.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, listen, man, sometimes it's hard. It's not easy. And that's the reality. But I do think there's a certain amount of accountability we have to be able to put on these fighters in making the fights that they say they truly want to make. Right. It's just hard to argue against the idea that it was right there in front of you in Saudi Arabia and you went the other way. And it is it is what it is. You know what I mean? I don't think you're soft. I don't think you're scared. There's people who would argue that you're scared of fighting these fighters and that you're just, I don't believe it's smoke. I think it's real. I don't think you're blowing smoke up our rear ends. I think you want the biggest fights, but what are you willing to do to get the fights is in question. When we see you move the way you move, how bad do you want the fight? Because fighters have done more for less. You were confronted with an opportunity to concede and take a real opportunity that nobody would have been able to throw shots at you for. To get an opportunity at 4 belts to become undisputed, coming from the journey you came from at 168, dealing with the adversity and the lack of cooperation you was getting at 168, to walk into a situation to where it's just going to take one more step, just a little bit more patience to get you there, and you were unwilling to do it. We got to hold you accountable for that, brother. And it didn't work out in your favor. I'm not sure how it's aging for you right now. We'll see. Let's see what happens between these negotiations between him and Callum Smith. Let's see what happens with his opportunities at 175, or, you know, what he has to do to go to the cruiserweight division. It is what it is, right?
Man, agreed.
It is what it is, man. Good brother. Thank you. We had a great show today, man. Good talk, good build. Tomorrow we'll be back on same bat time, same bat channel. We'll be building on Jamal Charlo. We'll be building on Caleb Plant. We'll be building on Subriel Matias and Alberto Puello. We'll be building on that Kyron Davis fight. And we'll be building on everything else going on in boxing, because who knows what these fools is going to do today. You know what I'm saying? Between today and tomorrow. We'll talk about it all, man.
And I got you. I got a title for you, so.
All right. We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen.
All right.
It is what it is, man. Salute to everybody in the building, man. Thank you for showing up, man. Until the next one, man. It's your boy Claymore Rain. It's your boy Ray Davis. More importantly, it's at ATP Combat Media Show. And at this point,
we out.